My cousin, who had been unable to conceive for years, went for a wild swim and had a moon eel burrow into her body. Within 2 months, her belly swelled up, and she could even see what looked like fetal movement. I urged my cousin to go to the hospital immediately, or the eel might burst out of her belly at any moment, but my cousin just cradled her belly, chuckling, "What do you know? My son is born with divine strength. He can protect his mother even from inside the womb." Later, my cousin collapsed at home. I rushed her to the hospital, where the doctor removed clusters of small eels from her uterus. Her uterus was severely infected, and she could never bear children again. She came to utterly despise me, stabbed me to death, and threw my body into the river to feed the eels. "You're the one who cursed my son away. Go to hell." Even my own mother thought I was meddling and bringing it upon myself by choosing to cover up my cousin's role in my death. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day when my cousin went swimming in the wild. One, Luna, let me tell you quietly that I recently got a folk remedy, and barring any surprises, I'll soon have a son. Once I have a son, your brother-in-law will finally settle down, our family can be happy and harmonious, and my days of hardship will finally be over. When I opened my eyes, my cousin Joy was changing into a swimsuit, and the one she was putting on was getting more and more revealing. A suspicious blush also spread across her cheeks. Thinking of the good thing about to happen, she blinked her big eyes with excitement. In a past life, Joy said these very words to me with the same mysterious look on her face. Joy and her husband Harvey had been married for years, yet they had never been able to conceive. Over the years, they consulted countless doctors, and Joy was force-fed traditional Chinese medicine as if it were a daily meal, yet her womb remained silent, even though the young family had no throne to inherit. Over time, Harvey started looking for a mistress on the side. Joy tearfully went to Harvey's mother to complain, only to be met with a dismissive remark, "You're a barren hen squatting in the coop and laying no eggs. Do you really expect my son not to seek a life elsewhere?" Left with no other choice, Joy became obsessed with all sorts of folk remedies again. This time, she even considered using eels to induce pregnancy. I earnestly advised her that such folk remedies had no scientific basis whatsoever, and it would be wiser to be cautious. But Joy, driven mad by her desperation for a child, wouldn't hear a word of it. She still went for a midnight swim with Harvey in a river under the full moon. She even scattered bait in the water to attract eels, hoping they would aid conception during their union. Over 2 months later, Joy came to see me with her belly proudly protruding. Harvey trailed behind her, fetching tea and water. Beaming with pride, she said, "Luna, look, I really am pregnant." That folk remedy worked wonders. While Harvey went to get water, Joy leaned in close to my ear, her face flushed with a shy smile, and whispered, "That day, an eel slithered in. Honestly, that thing had such incredible force. No wonder it was so effective." I stared at her belly in disbelief. It had only been 2 months, yet Joy was now heavily pregnant, looking no different from a woman 6 months along. But anyone with even a basic understanding of biology knows that at this stage, the embryo is only the size of a grape. There's no way it could cause the abdomen to swell that much. The most terrifying part was that, if you looked closely through Joy's clothes, you could just make out something shifting and moving beneath the skin of her belly. My scalp was crawling with dread, but Joy just clutched her stomach and laughed. "Honey, Luna, look, the baby's kicking me. My boy is amazing, born with such strength. He's going to be a real little gentleman when he grows up. He'll protect his mommy." I immediately realized that this was no ordinary eel, but the legendary moonlight eel. I pulled Joy, urging her to go to the hospital right away. There was no doubt that the moonlight eel had made a nest in her stomach. The moonlight eel naturally feeds on decaying flesh, and it wouldn't be long before Joy was hollowed out from the inside. But Joy thought I was jealous that she was pregnant with a son, and she left in a huff. She collapsed at home, and I happened to be there visiting when I found her. Without a second thought, I rushed her to the hospital. The doctor initially thought she might be pregnant and performed an ultrasound, but there was no sign of a fetus on the screen. There were clusters of eels swimming together. The doctor immediately performed surgery, cutting open Joy's abdomen to remove the eels. The baby eels were still alive when they were removed, each as thick as a little finger, some with sharp, fine teeth. The sight was so gruesome that even the seasoned doctor felt nauseated. Looking at Joy's uterus, it was already riddled with holes. The doctor said that if they had arrived any later, the eels would have devoured Joy's uterus and infested her internal organs. Upon waking, Joy learned that not only had she not conceived, but she had also lost her uterus. She completely lost her mind. Harvey, who had rushed over, also blamed me. "If it weren't for your meddling, our son would still be alive. Look at you now. First you couldn't have children, and now you've lost your uterus. Are you even a woman anymore? Harvey became completely brazen, even bringing all sorts of women back to our home. He would flirt with them right in front of Joy. Joy had finally reached her limit and stormed into my house, stabbing me over a dozen times. After I died, she threw my body into the river teeming with moon eels, watching my corpse being slowly devoured. Joy grinned maliciously. Luna, don't blame me. You owed me this. In my past life, I tried every means to dissuade her, even saved Joy's life, yet ended up dismembered. This time, I've decided to let go of my savior complex and respect others' destinies. I'd like to see what happens when the moonlight eel bursts out of its belly, facing thousands of good suns. I wonder how Joy will react to. Luna, what do you think? Is this approach reliable? Should I give it a try? She looked at me with anticipation, simply hoping to hear a positive response from me. My mom, who was in the kitchen cooking chicken soup for Joy, also came over, eagerly looking at me. Right, Luna, you've read a lot of books, so take a look and tell your cousin if this is reliable or not. Watching the two of them with their fake smiles, I finally understood after being reborn, people like Joy, who are good at shifting the blame onto others, will definitely hold me responsible if something goes wrong because of my poor response. As for my own mother, she takes a hands-off approach, completely uninvolved, so. Suppressing my anger, I replied seriously, Sister, after all, this is a matter between you and your husband. Have you asked him? What does he think? Honestly, you don't even need to ask. Someone like Harvey, who thinks with his dick, would definitely be on board. He'd probably even be fantasizing about skinny dipping with his cousin under the moonlight. Sure enough, when I mentioned Harvey, Joy's face flushed with an even deeper shade of bashfulness. She murmured, Your brother-in-law said it wouldn't be out of the question, as long as it results in a son. But, I interrupted her, that's it then, if you two have agreed. Does it really matter what I, an outsider, think? In my heart, your happiness together matters more than anything else. Joy nodded in agreement, completely at ease. My mom also happily brought out some chicken soup, serving Joy a large bowl and giving me a warning look. Here, Joy, drink up. Joy polished off the whole pot of chicken soup, her mouth glistening with oil. Looking at my bowl, it was filled with nothing but pickled vegetables and a few leftover zombie-like pieces of meat from yesterday. Joy took the tissue my mom handed her to wipe her mouth, then patted her still flat stomach and said, Oh, it's all because Auntie's cooking is so delicious. I accidentally finished it all. It's for your future nephew. Luna, you don't mind, do you? I chuckled and shook my head. Of course not. I'm looking forward to the day my nephew is born too. Not at all. Of course not. Go ahead, eat. The more you eat, the more nourishment for the moon-gazing eel. When it gives birth to a whole brood of snarling little eels, who's to say you haven't fulfilled your duty of continuing the young family line? In a few days, it will be the night of the full moon. Joy says that's when the eel's spiritual power is at its peak. They even perform a kind of moon worship. The effect of assisted conception becomes stronger at this time. As soon as the day arrived, Harvey pulled Joy into the water. The two scattered bait around their bodies to attract the moon eels. Soon enough, just like in her previous life, Joy felt something slippery passing by her. She felt a bit scared, but Harvey found the situation incredibly thrilling. Even the tasks at hand felt more invigorating than usual. Joy's last shred of reason crumbled under Harvey's behavior. With the help of the moonfish, the great plan of continuing the family line was accomplished. These are things I learned from my mom's conversations with Joy. Every time my mom finished a call with Joy, her complexion looked rosier. Consequently, her attitude toward me improved significantly. The real issue is that Joy has been married for years without having a child, and Harvey and his mom have become increasingly dissatisfied with Joy. Even when my mom visits Joy at their home, she gets treated with a lot of coldness. Finally, we can hold our heads high. How could my mother not feel proud? 3. In the days that followed, Joy and Harvey went to work a few more times. Although it wasn't a full moon night, the effect was still significant. Before long, Joy noticed something unusual about her body. She became lethargic and constantly hungry, and her belly grew as round as a balloon. Seeing her condition, the whole family thought she was pregnant and were overjoyed. Soon, Joy brought Harvey to our house to share the good news with my mom. My heart clenched at the sight of her round, swollen belly. This scene was exactly the same as in my past life. My mother held Joy's hand, fussing over her with warm concern, every bit the picture of a doting mother. But my mother was, after all, a woman who had read a book or two. Joy's belly, which was noticeably larger than what was typical for her stage of pregnancy, made my mom start to have her doubts. She whispered to me curiously, But how come her belly is so big? Doesn't that seem a bit off? What do you think, Luna? I was in the middle of eating a peach, and being put on the spot by my mom like that left me at a loss for Words, just like in my past life, she'd never say these things herself. She always made me be the one to speak up and play the bad guy, but I didn't come back for nothing. I immediately said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Mom, what are you saying? My sister and brother-in-law finally have a child. Even if you're not happy for them, how could you say their baby isn't normal? They're not children. Don't you think my sister knows her own body best?" Sure enough, as soon as I said that, both Joy and Harvey's expressions changed. Perhaps realizing my mom could still be of some use, Joy finally smiled and explained things to her. "Auntie, you have no idea, we consulted a master, and they said I'm very likely carrying multiples. The babies are strong, I can already feel them moving. These children are a gift from heaven. The master also said it's not good to go for prenatal checkups too early. The radiation from those ultrasound machines is terrible for the babies, but don't worry, I know my own body. The babies are perfectly healthy." Joy covered her belly, her face beaming with sweetness. Harvey was practically at Joy's beck and call, like a devoted sidekick. When had we ever seen such a harmonious scene? "That's right, Auntie, my mom says all that prenatal checkup stuff is a scam. Her generation never had any of those tests, and their kids turned out perfectly healthy. Honestly, I'd rather save that money for the hospital than just hand it over. It'll be much better spent on my eldest son's future wedding fund." Hearing both of them say that, my mom couldn't really argue the point any further. I immediately transferred another 20,000 yuan to Joy, telling her to buy some supplements and not to hold back on spending. After finishing his meal, Harvey left. He had to go on a business trip for a week, so Joy stayed with us, under my mother's care. As Joy's appetite grew larger, her rosy complexion began to show a faint hint of bluish-black. I knew that the moon-gazing eels were rapidly multiplying inside her. The thought of it kept me from eating at home for days. I kept making excuses about working late to eat out, terrified she might pass some illness on to me. With me gone, Joy could have the place to herself, and they were both perfectly content with the arrangement. But one day, right in the middle of my overtime, my mom called. The moment I answered, she blurted out, "Luna, when are you coming home?" I checked the time. It wasn't even 10 o'clock yet. My boss has piled on so much work, I don't know when I'll ever finish it. "What's up?" I could hear my mother's voice starting to tremble, as if she had just gone through something truly terrifying. You need to come home. No, your cousin is acting strange, and I'm scared to be here alone." I felt nothing. "Oh, nonsense. How could you be normal if you're carrying a belly full of eels?" My mom, being all mystical, finally couldn't hold back a faint sob from her throat. Sob, sob, sob. "Please come back. I just woke up and saw your cousin. She's squatting in the kitchen eating meat." I scratched my ear, feeling a bit impatient. "Tisk, it's just meat, isn't it? Why make such a big deal out of it? Can't a pregnant woman eat a couple more pieces of meat?" "No, it's not that. Your cousin was eating rotten meat. I took it out of the fridge last night to throw it away, and she just turned around and started gnawing on it. Do you think your cousin is mutating?" When I returned home again, it was already the next morning. I was worried something might happen, so I spent the night at the office. Joy is sitting at the table eating breakfast prepared by my mom. Judging by the dishes and variety, it's clearly not as carefully prepared as before. Joy doesn't look too well, and she hasn't touched her food much, possibly because it doesn't suit her taste. My mother was hiding in the kitchen, with dark circles under her eyes. Seeing me return, she grabbed my hand as if clutching a lifeline. "You're finally back, you wretched girl." I was so scared I didn't sleep a wink all night. Unmoved, I forcefully pulled her hand away. "Mom, are you really getting old and talking nonsense? How could my cousin, a normal person, eat rotten meat? Maybe you're just seeing things." My mom was so anxious she was stomping her feet, almost ready to swear to the heavens. "I'm not stupid. I saw it clearly. When I got up this morning and checked again, those pieces of rotten meat were gone. If she didn't eat them, do you think the meat could have grown legs and run away?" The moonfish loves to eat rotten meat, so naturally, as the mother, Joy has picked up this habit as well. Even if my mom didn't fully understand, she could guess that the so-called folk remedy was most likely the problem. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at her. "You must have been dreaming. Look how perfectly normal cousin is now. Whatever you do, don't let her hear you say things like that, or you'll upset her." With that, I tried to leave, but my mom grabbed my arm again, her grip urgent. "No, I'm scared. I'm really scared. Maybe we should take her to the hospital. She's almost 3 months pregnant now and hasn't had a single prenatal checkup." "Oh, Mom, can you stop making trouble for no reason? If you want to go, go ahead. I'm already swamped with work. By the way, our company is rushing a project these days, and I have to work overtime every day, so I'll just stay at the office." I left the kitchen after saying that, completely ignoring my mom's pleading behind me. As I passed by Joy, a faint stench of fish hit me, making me feel sick, but I still managed to smile and warmly greeted Joy. "Cousin, how's the baby doing lately?" Joy looked exhausted, but her spirits lifted when talking about her child. "The little one is so mischievous. I can feel that once he's born, he'll be a sweet little protector, ready to look after his mom." My mom was sneaking around the kitchen, and her occasional glances were filled with terror. "That's good, my mom. We'll take good care of you before my brother-in-law returns. Don't be shy, my mom is your mom now. Feel free to tell her whatever you want to eat or drink." Joy nodded gratefully at me. I chuckled to myself. "Since you've always thought I was unnecessary, this time, I'll give you two a chance to truly love each other." 5. I wonder how Joy explained this to my mom. My mom actually accepted the idea of Joy eating rotten meat, and even goes out of her way to let fresh meat spoil before giving it to Joy. My mom explained over the phone, "Hey, everyone's pregnancy cravings are different. When I was pregnant with you, I even liked the smell of gasoline. I guess I'm just overthinking things as I get older." I was stunned, but all I could do was respect and wish her well. As Joy's belly grew larger, her demand for rotten meat also increased. However, Joy's mental state was deteriorating, often complains of pain here and there, occasionally experiences bloody stools. The moonfish is wreaking havoc in her stomach, and who knows what it has bitten, but Joy doesn't care, saying she checked online and it's normal for pregnant women to develop hemorrhoids and experience bloody stools. She didn't even go to the hospital herself, so my mom didn't have much to say. On this day, I came home to get something and just happened to run into Harvey, who was back from a business trip. As soon as I opened the door, a strong, foul stench hit me in the face. Harvey and I both gagged repeatedly, almost throwing up. From the smell, Joy's belly had grown to an unbelievable size, and she had begun to wobble unsteadily when she walked, needing my mother's support. "Honey, you're finally home. Look how much our baby has grown these past few days." As she spoke, Harvey covered his nose and did not step forward. The smell coming from Joy now was akin to that of hundreds of fish left to rot for months. Honestly, it's all an eyesore. Only my mom's love is unconditional. She's the only one who can squint and still stick by Joy's side. "Honey, you're gag. Seeing Harvey like that, Joy's eyes instantly welled up with tears. "What do you mean by that? Are you saying I've gotten ugly now that I'm pregnant and put on weight? You're disgusted by me, aren't you?" Sobs. Joy spread her arms wide, and the smell grew even stronger. I quickly retreated outside the door. "Honey, I want a hug." Harvey wanted to comfort her, but he just couldn't get past the mental barrier in his heart. In her excitement, Joy fainted. In my previous life, it was me who took Joy to the hospital, saving her life, but this time, it was her loving husband who took her to the hospital. I tried to make an excuse to leave, but my mom grabbed my wrist. There was no choice. I had to go along. Harvey is quite a character. He didn't take Joy to the hospital but instead brought her to the master who had told them about the eel fertility remedy. The master was greatly surprised to see Joy in this state, and learned that Joy had successfully conceived using the folk remedy he had mentioned. A cold sweat broke out on the expert's forehead, but he quickly composed himself. He quietly put on a gas mask and began taking Joy's pulse with feigned seriousness. "It's nothing serious, but a pregnant woman mustn't get too agitated. It can lead to premature labor. You must always be mindful of her emotional state, understand? As for this fishy smell, it's perfectly normal. After all, you used eels to aid conception, right? Well, eels naturally have that earthy, muddy scent. This actually indicates the pregnancy is strong and stable, a sign the treatment worked." The master wiped the sweat from his brow and spouted nonsense with a straight face. "Moreover, judging from the pulse, it's likely that your wife is carrying twins, a boy and a girl. Congratulations." Seeing the master say this, Harvey and my mother were overjoyed. They eagerly awaited the birth of the twins. Harvey was so puffed up with pride he thought he was God's gift, convinced it was all his doing. The Asian swamp eel is hermaphroditic, so isn't that essentially a dragon-phoenix pair in one? Seeing this, the so-called expert prescribed Joy a whole bunch of what he called fetal stabilizing medicine. When it came time to pay, Harvey just stood there with his hands in his pockets, making no move whatsoever. My mother shot me a look, but I just stared up at the clouds and the birds, avoiding her gaze. In the end, it was my mother who dug into her own pocket and shelled out a hefty sum for a large packet of some mystery ingredient pregnancy tonic. Just then, Joy happened to wake up, and with no other signs of discomfort, the group happily headed home. Harvey couldn't get used to staying at my place, so he simply packed my mother up and took her back to his house to look after Joy. While packing, Joy shot me a sidelong glance and said, "Given my current situation, I hope Luna won't mind if Auntie comes to take care of me for a while." I replied, "Of course not. Like we said before, my Mom is your mom too, we're family, no need to be so formal. 6. Seizing the moment while my mom was busy looking after Joy and wouldn't be free anytime soon, I quickly contacted the agent and listed my apartment online for rent at a low price, tenant requirements, priority given to those with a history of mental illness or criminal records. Then I packed my luggage and sent my mom's personal belongings to Joy's place. I myself moved swiftly to the company's staff dormitory. The staff dormitory has security guards, all of whom are young, strong guys with 8-pack abs. Living here is definitely better than living somewhere where the security is all 70-year-old grandpas. Joy only knows where I live, but she doesn't know which company I work for. As for my mom, she's a total enabler for her brother, practically ready to hand over the entire family fortune to him later. My uncle and aunt passed away unexpectedly in a car accident, leaving young Joy all alone in the world. My mother took it upon herself to bring Joy home to care for her. Any treats or fun activities we had were always given to Joy first. My mother would say, one must cherish family bonds, otherwise, what's the difference between us and beasts? So, the year I graduated from university at 22, my father finally reached his breaking point and filed for divorce. He left with almost nothing. The only property was put in my name, and all the savings went to my mother. As for my mother, ever since her divorce from my father, she's become increasingly convinced that I, as a member of the He family, am unreliable. She finds fault with everything I do. She believes her precious niece will be the one to take care of her in her old age. In my past life, even when Joy killed me, she didn't bat an eye. Having already lost one daughter, I absolutely cannot lose my niece as well. My mother knows the difference perfectly well, so the top priority is to make sure they can't find me. Who knows when the resentment festering inside Joy will finally boil over. I need to stay far away from this. It's best to let them fight among themselves. I don't want to get dragged into their mess again. 7. Just as I expected, my mom's call was the first to come through. Luna, how dare you rent out the apartment without asking for my permission? Do you even see me as your mother anymore? I held the phone away from my ear, but my mom's yelling was still piercingly loud. And what kind of shady characters are you letting live there now? I just rang the doorbell a couple of times, and some lunatic charged out with a peeler, chased me down over a dozen flights of stairs, and threatened to kill me. I couldn't help but smirk, thankful that I had foresight, but I couldn't say that in front of my mom, so I just pretended to be surprised and replied, no way, don't overthink it. Young people these days are under a lot of pressure. Working 996 or even 007 is normal. Maybe you just disturbed someone's sleep. Don't try to distract me. I'm asking you, why did you rent out the house without consulting me? Now there's a lunatic living there. Where am I supposed to live? My mom was fuming, but I pretended not to notice and casually said, because I'm broke. Your retirement money is all going to my cousin, and you ask me for a monthly allowance. If I didn't rent out the house to make some rent, I'd be starving. After my father divorced her, she felt entitled to leech off me without a second thought. Her monthly pension is over $10,000, most of which she gives to Joy, but that's still not enough. She even has her eyes on my money. If I so much as utter a word of complaint, she accuses me of being an ungrateful wretch who doesn't care about family. Yous are all cut from the same cloth, nothing but a bunch of selfish, petty people. I've been subsidizing Joy a lot over the years to maintain family ties. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't be so foolish. Joy and my mom are the ungrateful ones. On the other end of the phone, my mom is still complaining nonstop, yelling at me to come back and arrange a place for her to stay. I said coldly, I remember you contributed at least half of the down payment for their house when my cousin got married. Since you think I'm ungrateful, I'm sure my cousin's family will treat you well. You should go live with them. My mother didn't expect me to say this. I had always been obedient to her, and this was the first time I had defied her wishes. She was silent for 2 seconds, then said triumphantly, exactly, your cousin wouldn't be as heartless as you. She promised to always keep a room for me in her home when she got married, and I'm like her real mother. Since the house is already rented out, that's fine, but you have to transfer the rent to your cousin. She's pregnant and can't work now, and once the baby is born, there will be diapers, formula, and all sorts of expenses. As an aunt, you need to take responsibility. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. My mom thinks too highly of herself. Why should she? I'm not Joy's mom. She's not carrying my child. Luna, are you even listening to me? I replied dismissively. Got it. Only after hearing my promise was my mother satisfied enough to hang up the phone. After Joy got home, she texted me every other day. They don't care if I'm working or not, demanding instant replies, if I'm even slightly slow. The barrage of frantic calls starts. Ever since Joy got married, she's poured all her energy into Harvey and hasn't really kept up with friends. That's why, in a past life, or so it seems, she'd come to me with everything, landing me in trouble through no fault of my own. And on this day, another message from her popped up. I opened it and found it full of 60-second voice messages. I converted the voice messages into text with one click. From what I can gather, it seems like Harvey is seeing someone else again. In the past few days, he's been dressing up meticulously whenever he goes out, even spraying perfume under his armpits. Joy sobbed and complained, "He's such a monster. After all I went through to give him a son, he still hasn't changed his ways. Tell me, Luna, is the grass really that much greener on the other side?" Joy's crying was giving me a headache. I tried to talk sense into her. In my past life too, a man like Harvey belongs in the trash. But what did Joy say? No, Harvey used to be so good to me. I believe he didn't mean to do it. It must have been those vixens out there who seduced him, and it's all my fault. Harvey's family line has been passed down through 10 generations of only sons, and I still haven't been able to give him a son. If I were pregnant, he would surely settle down. But in the end, in her past life, Joy was tormented beyond recognition in her desperate struggle to get pregnant. After brushing with death, Harvey's first concern wasn't for her health, but his disgust that she had lost her uterus and was no longer a complete woman. At this point, Joy didn't dare to confront her dear husband. Instead, she turned her anger on me, the one who had always looked out for her. Remembering the misery of my past life, I couldn't find it in my heart to feel any sympathy for Joy. Still, I offered Joy a good piece of advice. "Really, I don't think so. It seems to me your brother-in-law has been treating you quite well since you got pregnant." Joy sobbed. "It's good, but that doesn't stop him from fooling around outside." "Cousin, I have a question for you." "What?" Joy stopped crying and asked me questioningly, "How long has it been since you and my brother-in-law shared a room?" Joy paused for a moment, then quickly caught my meaning. "You mean, but I read online that you're not supposed to do that during pregnancy. Plus, I've been feeling so tired lately, just completely out of sorts all over." I cut her off immediately, saying disapprovingly, "Well, that's where you're wrong. Your husband is a healthy, vigorous man. How's he supposed to hold out all this time? Besides, you're past the 3-month mark now. The pregnancy is stable. If you don't give it to him, you can't blame him for looking elsewhere." A look of understanding dawned on Joy's face. She said at once, "I get it now. Thank you, Luna. I knew you had my best interests at heart. Of course I'm going to be good to you, whether it's you, Harvey, or even my mom. None of you are getting away with it." 9 late at night, I was woken up again by my mom's call. "Luna, hurry to the hospital. Your cousin is about to give birth." I did the math, and Joy is only a little over 3 months pregnant. What is this? Premature birth, or a miscarriage? Joy has never had a prenatal checkup since becoming pregnant, and she has no idea what the doctor's reaction would be upon seeing a belly full of small eels. Probably would leave a psychological scar. After much thought, I couldn't miss this historic moment. I'm really curious to see firsthand what Joy's belly looks like now without my intervention. Arriving at the hospital, my mom and Harvey were pacing outside the delivery room, looking very anxious. I rushed over, feigning concern, and asked, "What happened? Why would my cousin suddenly go into premature labor?" Upon mentioning this, my mom's face quickly darkened. Harvey was still in his pajamas, and upon closer inspection, there were faint bloodstains on the hem of his shirt. He awkwardly rubbed his hands together. "Last night, Joy and I were, and she suddenly started complaining about stomach pain, feeling like she was about to give birth. I quickly brought her here." I see. It seems Joy really took my words to heart that day, but the moon snakes in her body were already reaching maturity and could burst out at any moment. Messing around at this point just advanced the timing of the moonfish's birth. Since Joy had never had a prenatal checkup since her pregnancy, the doctor could only push her into the delivery room and perform the checkups while she was giving birth. My mother kept praying beside me, "Please, Guanyin Bodhisattva, bless our Joy and let her give birth to the baby safely." To pass the time, Harvey started chatting with the family members of the neighboring. "Hey man, are you and your wife having a boy or a girl? Did you go for a scan?" The neighbor looked a bit puzzled but replied politely, "No, what's the point of that? Whether it's a boy or a girl, it's our own flesh and blood. We'll love them just the same." That said, both my wife and I would love a daughter. It'd be even better if it's a girl, but Harvey clearly missed the point. He said proudly, "My wife is carrying a son, the firstborn, and it's twins, a boy and a girl. Honestly, how can a daughter compare to a son? Raising a girl at home is just a waste of resources." "Dude, you're just saying you like daughters on purpose, aren't you?" "That's fine, though. Not many men are as strong as me." The moment he said that, the surrounding family members looked at Harvey as if he We're an idiot. I also took the hint and stepped back a few meters. What bad luck. After a while, the door of the delivery room suddenly opened. The doctors and nurses rushed the pregnant women out as if being chased by some monster. The family member who had just spoken with Harvey saw his wife and hurried over to ask what was wrong. His wife's face was pale, and her lips trembled uncontrollably. She tightly gripped her husband's hand and shouted, "Quick, run, there's a woman giving birth inside, and she's giving birth to a bunch of eels. Those eels bite, and many nurses have been bitten." 10. Joy waddled into the delivery room, her belly heavy with a full-term pregnancy. At first, the doctors and nurses assumed she had avoided prenatal checkups due to poverty or old-fashioned ignorance. The foul odor coming from Joy was simply chalked up to poor hygiene and a resulting gynecological infection. They saw her writhing and howling in pain, looking for all the world like the baby was about to arrive at any moment. The doctors prepared for the delivery while calling for the ultrasound machine to perform an examination in the delivery room, but as soon as the doctor's hand reached into Joy's body, she trembled violently from the pain. She bit her lip and cried, "No, I can't hold it in." Those present only thought she couldn't hold the baby in. To everyone's horror, a dense swarm of tiny eels suddenly gushed forth from between her legs. The doctor closest to her suffered the worst, as several eels shot straight for his face. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then the delivery room descended into chaos, filled with screams and cries of terror. More and more moon eels poured from beneath Joy, slithering down the sides of the birthing bed one by one until they soon covered the entire delivery room. Joy's complexion grew even paler, devoid of any color, and she was convulsing uncontrollably on the delivery bed. Even in this state, she mumbled, "Son, I gave birth to a son." That was the scene we encountered when we entered the delivery room. Seeing Harvey walk in, Joy raised her hand and excitedly said, "Honey, look, I've given you so many sons, come and hold them." Huff, huff. My mom, being older and more sensitive, fainted immediately, her eyes rolling back. The moment she hit the ground, countless moon snakes swarmed over her, covering her body instantly. Harvey was so scared he wet himself. "Ah, it's a monster," he screamed and ran out. Joy's hand fell weakly, and she coughed up a large amount of blood, on the verge of death. Soon, a large group of doctors in protective suits rushed and conduct comprehensive disinfection of the moonfish on the ground, delivery bed, and ceiling. My mom and Joy were carried out by the doctors for emergency treatment. 11. Shortly after Joy entered the operating room, the doctor walked out shaking his head. "Sigh, the patient's entire body has been gnawed by those strange eels. It's practically hollowed out inside. As for her child, those monsters devoured it long ago. All that's left is a small piece of the placenta." Sigh. I don't know what gave her the strength to hold on for so long. I froze for a few seconds, afraid I had misheard. "What child?" The doctor gave me a strange look. "Don't you know the patient is pregnant? She's about 4 months along." So, Joy really had been pregnant. The doctor said there was no point in trying to save Joy, and he let me in to say my final goodbye. Joy lay motionless on the hospital bed. The moment she saw me, her eyes filled with a venomous hatred that coiled around me like a serpent. She spat viciously, "Luna, you wretched woman, why is it that even with a second chance, you still manage to ruin me like this? Give me back my son." It seems Joy has regained the memories of her past life. Without a doubt, if she had any strength left at that moment, she would have charged at me to kill me, just like she did in her past life. A pity. Joy hurled the most vicious insults at me, and I only gave her the truth. "Joy, you know what? You were already pregnant. If you hadn't used that folk remedy, your child would have been born safely. What?" Joy froze on the spot. She frantically waved her hands, desperate for an explanation from me, but she was out of time. In her final moments, her eyes held nothing but boundless regret. 12. Joy is dead. That fall left my mother with a stroke. For the rest of her life, she'll be completely dependent on the goodwill of others for her most basic needs. Naturally, I had no time to care for her myself, so I used her pension to put her in a nursing home. That nursing home doesn't seem to have a good reputation, as there are often reports of caregivers abusing elderly residents. I specifically reminded the caregiver that I'm busy with work and don't have time to visit, hoping he would take good care of my mother. I haven't seen Harvey since he ran out of the operating room in fear that day. I doubt he has the guts to come looking for me again. I saw him again in a short video. Someone revealed that her long-term boyfriend recently developed some strange illness and suddenly bit her during intimacy. He bit off a chunk of flesh from her chest. Now he's gone. She posted it to warn everyone. "If you see this person on the street, stay away from him." The video was quickly reported and taken down, but I recognized him immediately. It was Harvey. It seems he's also been infected by the virus carried by the moonlight eel. The doctor later told me that the moon-viewing eel is highly prolific. and carries a unique virus capable of parasitizing the human body. However, the specific consequences this virus might have for humans remain unknown. As work grew increasingly demanding, I stopped paying attention to the matter. That was until a late night 3 months later I received a phone call, and the caller ID showed Harvey, but when the call connected, a high-pitched woman's voice came through the line. She cried out in utter despair and desperation, "Help me, I'm Harvey, I've fucking turned into a woman, the end." Story 2. When Snow, the campus belle, suggested using fluorescent paint to revamp our performance costumes, everyone cheered for her brilliant idea. Even my childhood sweetheart looked at her with adoring eyes. Only I knew that the paint was a highly corrosive poison. In my past life, it destroyed everyone, and I, the sole survivor, was accused as the murderer and tortured to death. Now, reborn into this life, I watched them eagerly slathering the poison onto themselves. With a smile, I helped the lackey who despised me the most apply an extra 2 coats. "Make it brighter," I said, "or how else will it match that pretty face of yours?" I died on the back hill of North City Art Academy. My childhood sweetheart Victor, the man I'd called Big Brother for 18 years while following him around, took a thick needle used for sewing costumes and stitched that pristine white dance dress, the very one I considered my pride and glory, right into my flesh. Stitch by agonizing stitch, he asked me with a smile if it hurt. "Dove, Snow just wanted to make the costume a little more beautiful. Why did you have to ruin it for her?" I died. The needle pierced my skin, drawing beads of blood. Excruciating pain racked my body with spasms, yet I couldn't make a sound. Mere minutes earlier, he had forced a red-hot charcoal ember down my throat. Frustrating, isn't it? Being unable to speak in your own defense. Your stubbornness is what killed her. Snow, the campus belle revered by all as our muse, had altered her performance costume without authorization for the opening ceremony. The substandard fluorescent material she used caused severe burns and immediate disfigurement to the entire cast. Unable to bear the guilt, she leapt from the rooftop. As the lead dancer and organizer of that performance, I became the target of public criticism for being the only one who remained unscathed. Victor and the entire class were convinced that I, out of jealousy, had swapped the special effect paint Snow prepared for everyone. They lured me to the back of the mountain, where those classmates who once greeted me with smiles now watched fanatically as Victor subjected me to torture. Like a pack of judges, he took out sulfuric acid and meticulously poured it over my face, as if completing a work of art. When Snow died, her face was left scarred. "You won't be needing yours either." The searing agony sent me writhing madly on the ground, only to be met with stones and curses from my classmates. My corpse was mauled by wild wolves, left mangled beyond recognition. After seeing the video of my humiliation spread across the internet, my parents' hair turned white overnight. They refused to believe I could do such a thing and vowed to clear my name, but Victor bribed every witness and even fabricated evidence. In the end, Snow's mentally unstable mother, under Victor's guidance, broke into my home and brutally hacked my parents to death in the living room. Blood flooded my memories. Boundless hatred pulled me back from the abyss of utter annihilation, reforming my shattered existence. The next instant, a voice so chillingly familiar it froze me to the bone whispered right by my ear, "Dove, why the days?" Snow's suggestion is brilliant. As our lead dancer, where's your team spirit? Victor frowned, his face a canvas of admiration for Snow and impatience with me. My eyes snapped open. Before me was Studio A, the brightest dance hall in the school, its massive mirror reflecting my unscathed face. Frantically, I touched my throat, no charred mark, and I could still make sounds. I pulled out my phone. Time had rewound to the day before the opening performance of Beijing Art Institute's centennial celebration. I was reborn. In the center of the dance studio, Snow was holding up a can of unlabeled paint, her face lit with an innocent yet confident smile. "Classmates, this is the latest fluorescent paint I asked my uncle to bring back from abroad. Once we apply it to our dance dresses and the stage lights hit, we'll undoubtedly be the brightest stars of the entire show." With her graceful figure and sweet voice, she seemed like an angel descended to earth, but only I knew that this so-called imported paint was actually a highly corrosive chemical produced in her uncle's factory, specifically for industrial marking. In my previous life, this very paint ruined the faces and futures of 30 classmates, plunging me and my family into an inescapable hell. The classroom immediately erupted in excitement. "Wow, Snow, you're amazing. How did you even managed to get this?" "Exactly, our show was a bit dull before, but with this addition, we're definitely taking first place." Victor was the first to step up, speaking in a voice so tender it could melt hearts. "Snow always brings us the most delightful surprises. Dove, as the person in charge, what's your take on this?" All eyes were fixed on me. I could see the anticipation and fervor in their gazes, along with the subtle warning Victor was directing at me. He was afraid I'd ruin Snow's mood in my previous life. It was right here that I'd vehemently objected out of a sense of duty as the lead dancer. I said, the performance costumes are custom ordered by the school and can't be altered without permission. Besides, what if something goes wrong with these questionable paints? As a result, they ostracized me, calling me inflexible and jealous of Snow's talent. Victor even glared at me and said, Dove, can you rein in your jealousy? Can't you stand seeing others succeed? In that moment, I finally understood. The childhood friend I thought I had meant less to him than a single strand of Snow's hair in this lifetime. I watched their faces glowing with youth, those very faces that will soon be wailing in hell. I suppressed the surging hatred within and forced a smile even brighter than Snow's. I stood up, walked over to Snow, and picked up that can of paint as if holding some priceless treasure. Snow, your idea is nothing short of genius. My voice wasn't loud, yet it carried clearly throughout the entire dance studio. Even Victor was looking at me with a surprised expression. Ignoring them, I continued in an almost lyrical tone, this isn't just paint, it's a symbol of our class honor, the wings that will carry us to success. I fully agree, and I suggest that to achieve the best effect, each of us must personally coat our own dance skirts with this glow of hope. I turned around, facing everyone with open arms as if embracing a bright future. Classmates, let us join hands to create an unprecedented miracle. The dance hall fell silent for 3 seconds before erupting into thunderous applause and cheers. A triumphant smile spread across Snow's face as she shot me a smug glance, as if saying, you know what's good for you. Victor also breathed a sigh of relief. He walked over, patted my shoulder, his tone noticeably softening. Dove, I'm glad you've come around. This is how a proper lead dancer should carry themselves. I nodded with a smile, but inside, my heart felt like a frozen graveyard. Come around, yes, I've finally figured it out. If persuasion is hell, then I'll personally push each and every one of you into an even deeper hell in this lifetime. I won't pay the price for your foolishness anymore. I'll watch with a smile as you deliver yourselves to the judgment seat with your own hands. The revelry has begun. Snow stood at the center, surrounded by admirers like a queen, personally distributing the lethal paint to everyone. She deliberately walked up to me, shoved the largest can into my hands, her tone dripping with condescension. Dove, since you're so supportive of me, I'm giving you the biggest can. You're the lead dancer. After all, make sure you paint yourself the brightest and most eye-catching. The girls behind her chimed in as well. That's right, class president, you better apply it properly and not let Snow's kindness go to waste. If you mess this up, you'll be ruining the whole class's reputation. I looked at their hypocritical smiling faces and sneered inwardly. In my past life, when I earnestly advised them not to use this pigment, they wore the same contemptuous expressions, accusing me of jealousy and calling me rigid. Now that I'm going along with their wishes, they've become wary of me instead. Human nature is truly laughable. I took the pigment, my face lighting up with flattered surprise, my voice trembling with apparent emotion. Thank you, Snow. Thank you, everyone. I promise, I won't let you down. I held that jar of paint as if it were my very life. Victor watched me like this, nodded with satisfaction, and the wariness in his eyes faded considerably. He probably thought I had been completely won over by Snow's charm and had willingly become her supporting act. My classmates began carefully applying the thick, pungent chemical liquid onto their pristine white dance dresses with paintbrushes. As they painted, they envisioned themselves shining on stage, their faces glowing with anticipation for the future. Carrying my own dance dress and paint, I retreated to a quiet corner I remembered from my past life. After the tragedy struck, I had frantically researched until I uncovered the composition of this industrial-grade pigment. In its dry state, it appears harmless, but once exposed to high temperatures and human sweat, it rapidly decomposes, releasing highly corrosive substances that cause irreversible chemical burns to the skin. The hundreds of high-power spotlights on stage became the perfect breeding ground for this catastrophe. As I opened the paint can, the pungent odor made my stomach churn, a visceral scream from my past memory of being burned by sulfuric acid steadying my nerves. I unscrewed a bottle of pre-prepared mineral water, and with a deliberate slip of the hand, poured the entire contents into the paint can. Oh no, I let out a startled cry, drawing everyone's attention. Frantically, I held up the paint can. The liquid inside had been hopelessly diluted. My water, I spilled water into it. What do I do now? I was on the verge of tears, my face etched with regret and helplessness. Snow approached with a frown, her face filled with disdain at my foolish appearance. Dove, what are you even capable of? You can't even handle such a simple task. Victor followed as well, letting out a sigh laced with resignation. All right, Snow, let it go. Dove, just skip the makeup, no need to invite more trouble. My eyes welled up as I looked at him, but I'm the lead dancer. If I don't Wear it, the formation will look incomplete and ruin the whole performance. Snow waved a dismissive hand. Enough already, just stand further back where the lighting's dim, nobody will even notice you. Stop getting in the way and holding us up. Yeah, just leave it off. The other students chimed in one after another. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. I hung my head, shoulders trembling slightly like some pitiful creature abandoned by the entire world. I'm sorry, this is all my fault. From an angle they couldn't see, the corner of my lips curled into an icy smirk, clutching the dance dress that had survived unscathed. I quietly stepped aside and watched them gleefully complete their masterpiece. In the corner, a girl named Clove was watching me timidly. She came from a poor family, was introverted, had little presence in the class, and was often bossed around by Snow and his gang. Everyone froze in shock. In her previous life, she suffered the most severe burns, unable to afford skin graft surgery. Her entire face was disfigured, and she dropped out of school early. I still remember, when everyone was ganging up on me, only she timidly spoke up for me, saying, I don't think Senior Dove is that kind of person. As a result, Snow's lackeys shoved her to the ground, calling her a pauper, just as annoying as Dove. In this life, I won't let her become a victim again. While no one was paying attention, I walked over to her and whispered, Can I take a look at your dance dress? She hesitated for a moment, then handed me the dress without protest. I took her dress, stepped behind a locker, and quickly swapped it with an identical, clean one from my bag. Then I stuffed her paint-stained dress into the very back of the locker. As I returned the clean dance dress to her, I lowered my voice and said, Clove, listen, this dress is your lucky charm. No matter what anyone says before you go on stage tomorrow, don't change out of it. Remember, don't you dare change it. She looked at me with confusion, but still nodded firmly. After doing all this, I felt a small pocket of calm open up within the swirling vortex of hatred in my heart. After the rehearsal, Victor called out to me. He handed me a bottle of water with a hint of apology on his face. Dove, don't take what everyone said today to heart. Snow meant no harm. She's just straightforward like that. I gazed at his handsome face, the very face that had captivated me throughout my youth. It was the owner of this very face who, in a past life, tortured me to death in the most brutal way. I took the water and gave him a grateful smile. I know, Brother Victor, how could I ever blame Snow? She did it for the good of our whole group. My obedience and understanding pleased Victor greatly. He ruffled my hair, just like when we were kids. That's more like it. Come on, I'll walk you back to the dorm. As we walked, he suddenly asked, By the way, are you upset with me? I feel like you've been avoiding me lately. I scoffed inwardly. Avoiding you? I wish I could grind your bones to dust, but I kept my innocent expression intact. Not really, just tired from all the rehearsals. By the way, Victor, are you and Snow dating? I asked, feigning nonchalance. A faint blush crept across Victor's cheeks as he awkwardly turned his head away. Don't talk nonsense. We just get along well. Get along well, more like got along in bed, didn't you? In my past life, after I died, my spirit lingered in the air and I witnessed him and Snow fornicating right in front of my parents' memorial altar. He said, That fool is finally dead. No one can stand in our way anymore. Snow giggled and said, You're something else, making her die so horribly and dragging her whole family down to a miserable end. That was the first time I realized how vicious and cruel human hearts could be. Suppressing the surging hatred, I said with a smile, You two are perfect for each other. Snow is so beautiful and talented. You're truly a match made in heaven. My blessing completely lowered Victor's guard. He thought I was still that foolish girl who followed him around and did whatever he said. He would never know that the girl smiling so sweetly at him was actually plotting to drag both him and his beloved into the depths of hell. The day of the performance had finally arrived. Backstage in the dressing room, it was a hive of activity. All the students had changed into their meticulously decorated dance dresses, the eerie fluorescent patterns shimmering under the lights like venomous snakes coiled around their bodies. They excitedly showed off to each other, showering one another with praise, the atmosphere reaching a fever-pitched. Snow, wearing her dance dress splattered with the most paint, stood like a proud princess, basking in everyone's admiration. She walked up to me, looking down at my simple white dress with a condescending gaze, a smirk of disdain curling at the corner of her lips. Dove, it's not too late to regret it now. Feeling sorry for you. I still have a bit of paint left. Want me to grace you with some? I shook my head with genuine sincerity. No need, Snow. I'll pass. You're the vibrant flowers, and I'm content to be the green leaves that accentuate your beauty. My words clearly pleased her. She turned to Victor and said, See, Victor, I told you Dove is quite sensible. Victor looked at me with newfound admiration in his eyes. Just then, Clove emerged, having changed her clothes. Her pristine white dress stood out starkly amidst the sea of colorfully dressed people. Snow's face immediately darkened. She marched up to Clove and demanded sharply, "Clove, what's the meaning of this? Why haven't you applied the paint? Are you trying to sabotage our entire team's efforts?" Clove trembled from head to toe and whispered, I thought the original looked just fine." "You thought?" Snow shrieked. "Who do you think you are? What gives you the right to have an opinion? You're just some pauper. We're doing you a favor by letting you perform, and you dare to act special." As she spoke, she moved to tear Clove's clothes. I immediately stepped forward, shielding Clove. "Snow, don't be upset. Maybe there wasn't enough paint left yesterday, and she didn't get any." As I spoke, I shot Clove a meaningful look. Snow sneered. "Not enough. I made sure we had plenty. I think she did it on purpose, trying to be different like Dev. Just to get attention." Victor furrowed his brow and said to Clove, "This is no time to be stubborn. Go change your clothes now." Clove looked like she was about to cry from anxiety, her eyes pleading with me for help. I sighed inwardly. It seemed I had to give them a stronger push to get through this situation. Holding Clove's hand, I turned to Snow and Victor. "Snow, Victor, you've got it all wrong. I was the one who asked Clove to do this." Meeting their questioning gazes, I calmly explained, "Think about it. We're all wearing these glowing fluorescent suits, like a brilliant starry sky, but doesn't a starry night need the pure radiance of the moon to create depth and true enchantment?" I paused for a moment, watching their thoughtful expressions, then decided to push further. As the lead dancer, "It's a real shame that I can't shine due to this unexpected situation. That's why I specifically asked Clove to stay as she is. Her build is similar to mine, so during the formation changes, she can create a visual echo with me. One in the light, one in the shadows, one in front, one behind." This is a highly sophisticated stage technique called moonlight and starlight. When the judges see it, they'll immediately recognize that our performance is meticulously choreographed and will definitely award us high scores. I delivered this made-up term with absolute seriousness and conviction. The dance studio fell into complete silence. Everyone was completely taken in by my theory, moonlight reflecting the stars. "That sounds incredibly profound." "Yeah, it feels so artistic." Snow looked at me with a mixture of belief and doubt. Victor's eyes lit up as he looked at me, his gaze brimming with admiration. "Dev, I never knew you had such ideas. This design is truly brilliant." With his final word, Snow had no choice but to swallow her discontent. She shot me a glare and remarked sourly, "Just being pretentious." I could tell she was jealous. She thought the glowing dance skirt was her original idea. But now I've stolen the spotlight. She must be fuming, but it doesn't matter. Soon, she won't even have the energy to be jealous. The host's voice echoed through the auditorium as they announced the next performance. "Next up, please enjoy the grand dance piece Light Chaser presented by the Dance Department of North City Arts Institute." Taking a deep breath, I stepped onto the brilliantly lit stage with Clove and our fellow dancers, all of us heading toward what felt like certain ruin. The music began to play. The spotlight followed my every move as I stood at the center of the stage, beginning my solo performance. My pristine white tutu twirled with each motion, blossoming like a snow lotus in full bloom. The audience below included school administrators, journalists from major media outlets, and numerous distinguished figures from the art world. This nationally televised anniversary gala served as the perfect platform for Beijing Arts Institute to showcase its excellence to the world. It was also the perfect burial ground for Snow and Victor. As the music reached its crescendo, the grand curtain behind me slowly drew open. Snow led 28 dancers surging onto the stage like a tidal wave. The moment they stepped into the stage lights, a miracle, or perhaps a catastrophe, unfolded. The intense glare from hundreds of high-wattage stage spotlights instantly illuminated the dance dresses coated in fluorescent paint. Wow! A thunderous gasp erupted from the audience. The dresses truly came alive, emitting an eerie multicolored glow that against the dark stage backdrop resembled a flowing galaxy, a visually breathtaking spectacle. Snow stood at the front of the line, a triumphant smile on her face. She shot me a challenging look, her eyes brimming with smugness. Victor sat in the VIP seats in the front row. He rose excitedly, clapping vigorously, his burning gaze fixed on Snow on stage as if beholding his goddess. However, this sense of awe lasted less than 30 seconds. A piercing shriek tore through the rousing music. A girl suddenly collapsed in agony, frantically tearing at her dance dress. Then a second, a third, screams of pain rose one after another. The stage instantly descended into chaos. The once beautiful dance dresses, under the combined effect of high heat and sweat, began to emit wisps of white smoke, giving off a strong, acrid smell of burning chemicals. The fluorescent paint, like activated venom, began viciously eating away at the dancers' skin, on their arms, legs, and backs. Wherever the paint had touched, horrifying red welts and blisters rapidly bloomed across their flesh. My face is on fire. Help! Fire. My clothes are on fire. Water. Get me water. Now, on stage, 28 dancers thrashed and writhed like fish tossed into boiling oil, screaming and moaning in agony. Their dance dresses were corroded with gaping holes in some areas, revealing the mangled flesh beneath. The live broadcast captured this hellish scene in stark detail. Everyone was stunned by the sudden horror unfolding before their eyes. The school administrator's faces instantly turned ashen. The smile froze on Victor's face as he stared in disbelief at the stage, at Snow, who was also screaming in agony. Snow had suffered the most severe burns, she had worn the most paint, and now her beautiful face was left without a single patch of healthy skin, red blisters mixed with yellow pus, making her look more terrifying than a demon from hell. Only 2 people on the entire stage remained completely unscathed. One is me, the other is Clove. Shielded behind me, I stood amidst the chaos and wailing, the music long gone, my dance long over. I just stood there quietly, like an impassive judge, watching those who had once cast me into hell now drown in the hell of their own making. My face remained expressionless, but inside, I was laughing hysterically. See that, this is your comeuppance, and this is only the beginning. Clove was trembling all over with fear. Hiding behind me and clutching the hem of my shirt tightly, I could feel her terror. Turning around, I gently patted her back and whispered, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." My composure stood in stark contrast to the chaos around us. The live broadcast camera instinctively swung toward me. Millions of viewers saw this face, the only one that remained calm and beautiful amidst the chaos. They didn't know what was happening. They only saw a lead dancer who, when her companion met with misfortune, didn't panic and flee, but immediately shielded another terrified companion. In that moment, I became a glimmer of light in the tragedy, a perfect image of a victim. The crew finally snapped into action, rushing onto the stage with fire extinguishers and frantically carrying the injured away. The opening ceremony was abruptly halted. What should have been a celebratory event turned into a major safety incident that shocked the entire nation. I was taken to the makeshift medical station backstage. Outside, the agonized cries of the wounded mingled with the frantic footsteps of doctors and nurses rushing about. Snow and Victor were also brought in. Snow had passed out from the pain, her face hastily wrapped in gauze, leaving only a pair of eyes burning with venomous hatred. Victor's arm was slightly burned too, but he was more concerned about Snow, keeping vigil by her bedside, his eyes filled with anguish and fury. The moment he saw Clove and me walking unscathed, the fury in his eyes instantly found its release. He charged at me, grabbed my collar, and roared with bloodshot eyes, "Dove, was it you? This is your doing, isn't it?" His grip was terrifyingly strong, nearly lifting me off the ground. I pretended to be terrified, trembling uncontrollably. "Victor, I don't understand what you're saying. Stop pretending," he roared, spraying spit all over my face. "Why is everyone else affected except you and her? Don't tell me you didn't switch the paint. You're jealous of Snow, jealous of her talent, jealous that she's more popular than you, so you decided to ruin her. To ruin all of us." His accusations were exactly the same as in the previous life, but this time, I was no longer that helpless girl who could only weep in despair with no way to defend myself. I let him grab me, tears welling up in my eyes, my voice trembling with grievance and fear. I really didn't. Clove also mustered up the courage to step forward and speak up for me. "Let her go, Senior. This has nothing to do with Dove. It was Snow who told us to do it." "Shut your mouth." Victor shoved Clove away, her slender frame hitting the wall with a dull thud. "Who gave you the right to speak? You're in this together with her." Just then, the principal and department head entered with grim expressions. The principal took in the scene before him and roared, "Stop this, Victor. What do you think you're doing?" Victor finally let go of me, but he kept glaring at me with venomous eyes. He turned to the principal, pointing at me with an agitated tone. "Principal, Dean, it's her. It's Dove. She deliberately used toxic paint to frame us just to win first place and destroy Snow. She's the culprit." The principal's face grew even more grim. "The fallout from this incident is absolutely disastrous. The school desperately needs a scapegoat to quell the public outrage, and I, the sole surviving outcast, am undoubtedly the perfect candidate." His gaze toward me turned stern and scrutinizing. "Dove, what exactly happened? You need to give us a reasonable explanation." Everyone's eyes were piercing through me like daggers. They were all waiting for me to confess, to push me forward and shoulder all the blame. I took a deep breath, wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes, lifted my head, and met the principal's gaze. My voice wasn't loud, but it was remarkably clear. "Principal, I didn't frame anyone. On the contrary, I was the one who almost fell victim to a setup." I paused, my gaze sweeping over Victor and the venomous eyes of Snow lying in the hospital bed, because during the rehearsal, I discovered that the paint Snow brought was tampered with. My words detonated like a bomb in the cramped infirmary. Snow bolted upright in the hospital bed, ignoring the searing pain on her face, and shrieked, "That's a lie. Dove, you're slandering me," Victor immediately fired back. "You're lying. You clearly called it a stroke of genius back then and even took the lead in supporting it. Now that things have gone wrong, you're trying to pin the blame on Snow." "Dove, I never knew you could be so vicious." The principal and the department head grew increasingly grim. They clearly found Victor and Snow's accounts more credible. After all, one was the vice president of the student council, the other the campus belle. Both were far more popular and well-regarded than a bookworm like me who did nothing but bury myself in dance. Besides, so many people witnessed how I had supported Snow back then. My defense now just sounds like a guilty person's feeble excuse. I ignored their jeers and simply looked calmly at the principal. "Principal, the truth of my statement can be easily verified. I didn't speak up earlier because I lacked concrete evidence. I was afraid no one would believe me, and that I'd be accused of jealousy or causing trouble. My reasoning was perfectly sound. An ordinary student, without solid proof, would indeed hesitate to challenge someone as prominent as Snow." The principal's stern expression softened slightly. I continued, "At that moment, I could only minimize the damage in my own way. I deliberately knocked over the water, soaking my paints so I couldn't apply them. That was the first step. Then, noticing how introverted Clove was and fearing she might get bullied, I used the moon-reflecting starlight excuse to stop her from applying them too. That was the most I could do to make things right." I glanced at Clove, and she immediately nodded vigorously, like a little chick pecking at rice. Yes, it was my senior who protected me." Victor sneered. "What a load of nonsense. That's just an excuse you cooked up after the fact. Who can prove you actually noticed something wrong with the paint back then?" "I can." I looked him straight in the eye, enunciating each word deliberately, because I kept evidence. Even Victor looked stunned. I carefully pulled out a small piece of paint-stained dance skirt fabric from my dance shoe, sealed in a plastic bag. This was a small piece I had secretly cut off yesterday when I changed out of Clove's dance skirt. "This is the paint sample brought by Snow. Last night, I sent it to an off-campus professional testing agency and requested an expedited composition analysis," I said while pulling out my phone and opening an email. "The report just came in, and I believe it should explain everything that happened today." I handed the phone to the principal. On the screen was an authoritative report from the Huaca Precision Testing Center. At the bottom of the report, the conclusion was clearly stated in bold red letters: "The tested sample contains high concentrations of xylene and ethyl acetate, which are highly corrosive and volatile industrial solvents. These substances pose serious risks to human skin and respiratory systems, and direct contact with the human body is strictly prohibited." The infirmary was enveloped in dead silence. The air itself seemed to have frozen solid. The principal and dean's faces turned pale, then green, then purple. Shifting like a painter's palette, their hands began to tremble as they stared at the report on their phones. "Industrial solvent, highly corrosive. This is no simple safety incident. It's a deliberate poisoning case." Snow's face went completely pale. She slumped on the hospital bed, lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. She never imagined I had an ace up my sleeve all along. Victor was completely dumbfounded. He stared at the report, then at me, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. He probably couldn't comprehend how I, the girl he'd always seen as naive and foolish, could have orchestrated such a meticulous and well-thought-out plan. "No, it's impossible," he muttered to himself. "Snow, how could she use something like this? She was a victim too." "Oh, is that so?" I pulled back my phone and stared at him coldly. "Whether she's a victim or not, only she would know. But one thing I'm certain of, she's definitely not as clueless about this pigment as she claims." I turned toward Snow, whose face had gone ashen, and pressed closer step by step. "Snow, do you have the nerve to tell everyone where this so-called imported paint really came from? Would you dare to share the contact information of that uncle of yours who works abroad? Or perhaps the truth is, your uncle runs an unlicensed chemical factory in the northern suburbs, a operation with no permits, no standards, and no oversight." Each of my questions landed like a sledgehammer, crushing down on Snow's heart. Her body began to tremble violently, her eyes brimming with sheer terror. She knew I had uncovered everything. In the previous life, after the accident occurred, Victor used his family connections to sweep everything under the rug. They bribed the chemical plant workers, destroyed all evidence, and pinned all the blame on a negligent temporary worker. From start to finish, Snow was portrayed as nothing but an innocent victim. But in this life, I won't give her another chance. You're lying." Snow made one last desperate attempt. "I have no idea what you're talking about. My paints were brought back from abroad by my uncle. Is that so?" I sneered. "What an unfortunate coincidence. When I sent them for testing yesterday, I asked a friend at the inspection center to check the production batch number for this type of paint. Guess what? There's no record of this batch number anywhere in the world." I paused for a moment, savoring the look of despair on her face, then delivered the final blow. "However, I found an exact match for this batch number on a local industrial raw materials trading website here in North City. The supplier is Honfa Fine Chemicals Factory. The legal representative is Griffin Snow. If I'm not mistaken, that's your uncle's name, isn't it? Snow's mind completely short-circuited. Her eyes rolled back as she collapsed rigidly, passing out cold once again. This time, no one could tell if it was from pain or sheer terror. Victor was completely dumbstruck. He stood frozen in place, staring at me as if I were a monster. His proud family background and smug intelligence crumbled into absurd fragility before my irrefutable evidence. The principal and department head finally snapped out of their stunned silence. Their expressions shifted from fury to sheer terror. They knew exactly what it would mean if this came to light. The century-old reputation of Beijing Art Institute would be ruined in an instant, and as the school's leadership, they couldn't escape responsibility. The principal took a deep breath, and his gaze toward me grew complicated. There was shock, there was apprehension, but more than anything, there was a shrewdness, a desire to exploit the situation. He walked over to me and spoke in a tone that was almost kindly. Everyone froze in shock. Dove, this time, it's a good thing you were here. You not only protected yourself and your classmates but also prevented a greater disaster for the school. Rest assured, the school will never wrong an innocent person, and we will never let a wrongdoer go unpunished. He spoke with righteous conviction, all the while casting a discreet glance at Snow lying on the bed. We'll report this to the police immediately and let them handle it. As the whistleblower, the school will definitely recognize your actions with honors and rewards. I listened to his words with a cold sneer in my heart. Honors, rewards, easy for you to say. He just wants me to shut up and keep this whole thing under wraps, but that's exactly what I wanted. My goal isn't to destroy the school. I only want to destroy those who deserve it. I lowered my head, feigning overwhelming gratitude. Thank you, Principal. I'm confident the school will ensure justice is served. The principal nodded with satisfaction. He immediately summoned security to seal off the infirmary, then stepped outside to call the police. In the infirmary, only I, Clove, Victor, and the unconscious Snow remained. Victor finally snapped out of his daze. He stared at me with burning intensity, his voice hoarse and dripping with resentment. Dove, you have a heart of stone. I looked up, met his gaze, and smiled. Cruel, compared to what you and she did to me. This is nothing. He froze. What do you mean? I didn't answer him, but slowly walked up to him, lowered my voice to a whisper only the two of us could hear, and spoke softly. Brother Victor, do you still remember the wildfire on the back hill? His pupils suddenly contracted. Victor's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He stared at me as if he'd seen a ghost, lips trembling but unable to utter a single word. The hills behind us were engulfed in flames. This was a secret from our past life, known only to us perpetrators. How could I have known? Watching his terrified expression, a surge of vengeful satisfaction welled up inside me. I want him to know that I'm back. I've returned with the fires of hell to claim every last one of them. I leaned in closer, the smile on my lips growing colder. Do you remember that thick sewing needle? The bottle of sulfuric acid, and that piece of red-hot charcoal? Its taste was truly unbearable. My voice was as light as a feather, yet it landed on his ears with the weight of 1,000 pounds. You, who are you, really? Victor's voice was tinged with unmistakable fear and a tremble. He began to suspect that the dove before him might have been possessed by some unclean entity. I paid him no further mind, because I knew, from that moment on, the seed of fear had taken root in his heart. He would know no peace, day or night, living in endless suspicion and panic. This was just the first taste of what I had in store for him. Several journalists from major media outlets arrived with the police. It seems the principal is using the media to distance the school from the incident, shifting all blame onto unscrupulous vendors and a few individual students. Snow was taken by the police right from her hospital bed. She was awake, but her eyes were vacant, like a puppet whose soul had been ripped out. As she passed by, I could clearly see the seething hatred in her eyes. Good, I want you to despise me, because hatred that precedes despair cuts the deepest. Victor, being a person of interest, was also taken in for questioning. As he left, he gave me a deep look, a gaze so complex it was overwhelming, filled with fear, resentment, and a hint of pleading. Scared now, too late, Clove and I, as the victim and a key witness, also went to the police station to give our statements. I presented everything I had prepared in a clear and methodical manner. I detailed how I discovered the pigment was contaminated, how I preserved samples, how I devised the moonlight reflection ruse to protect myself, and how I asked a friend to expedite the lab tests. My account was flawless. Before the police and reporters, I perfectly crafted the image of a calm, intelligent, and courageous hero who used her knowledge to save herself and her classmates in a crisis. Clove, with her trembling voice choked with tears, corroborated every detail of my story. She told everyone how I protected her, comforted her, and reassured her not to be afraid. Suddenly, I became the talk of the entire internet, the most beautiful lead dancer at North City Art Academy, a textbook example of self-rescue, a goddess with both wisdom and beauty. A flood of compliments came pouring in on me like a snowstorm. The slander that was thrown at me in my past life has now returned twofold as glory, draped upon my shoulders. Meanwhile, Snow and her uncle's chemical plant have become public enemies that everyone wants to drive out, heartless corporations trading human lives for profit. People like them deserve to be executed. That Snow woman has the heart of a venomous snake. Public outrage erupted across the internet under immense public pressure. The police handled the case with remarkable efficiency. That very afternoon, Griffin's Homefa Fine Chemicals plant was shut down. Police discovered a large quantity of illegally manufactured chemical products with counterfeit and substandard labels in the warehouse. It turns out Griffin had been running this deceptive scheme, selling counterfeit goods under the guise of legitimate products, to reap huge profits. Relying on his connections, he had managed to stay out of trouble for years, but this time, he bit off more than he could chew, a steel plate that clawed its way back from hell, steeped in venom. Griffin and Snow have been formally arrested by the police on suspicion of manufacturing and selling counterfeit and substandard products and negligently causing serious injury. They now face the full force of the law. At this point, it seems the matter can be laid to rest, but I know this is nowhere near enough. Snow and her uncle are just the appetizer. My main course, Victor, hasn't even been served yet. The Arthur family is considered quite prominent in North City. Victor's father, Arthur, is the chairman of a publicly traded company with extensive connections. In the previous timeline, he leveraged his connections to sweep everything under the rug. In this current timeline, even though the Sioux family has fallen, I believe with Arthur's influence, it wouldn't be difficult for him to get Victor cleared of any involvement in this matter. After all, Victor wasn't directly involved from start to finish. At most, he's just a misled individual who withheld information, not even an accomplice. Did they really think I'd let him off the hook that easily? I went back to my dorm and booted up my laptop. I hacked into that antiquated server at Homefa Fine Chemicals plant after my death. In the previous life, my soul wandered the world for a long time, with nothing better to do. I ended up mastering many skills, for instance, becoming a top-tier hacker. Soon enough, I found exactly what I was looking for buried in a stack of encrypted financial documents: a money transfer record, a transfer record showing $5 million moved from a secret account at Homefa Fine Chemicals to another corporate account. The recipient company was named Vither Industrial. The chairman of Vither Industrial was none other than Victor's father, Arthur, so that's the dirty, underhanded deal connecting them. Griffin was responsible for producing those shady chemicals, while Arthur's company took charge of disposing them by using the substances in their construction materials and renovation projects, passing off inferior products as quality ones to reap massive profits. Well, this is quite an unexpected surprise. I bundled up the transfer records along with the related contract documents, encrypted the package, and sent it via an anonymous email to the most renowned financial journalist in North City, known for being impartial and tackling tough cases. After finishing all that, I closed my laptop, lay down on the bed, and shut my eyes. I can just imagine the utter devastation that will befall the Arthur family when this evidence comes to light. I can almost hear Victor's agonizing wails of despair. This feeling is absolutely exquisite. The next day, I received a completely unexpected phone call. The entire place fell silent. It was Victor calling. His voice sounded weary and hoarse. "Dove, can we meet up?" He asked to meet me at the campus cafe. He was already there when I arrived. He looked utterly exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. The once vibrant young man now resembled a defeated rooster. When he saw me, his eyes held a complex emotion. He struggled for a long moment before finally speaking. "Dove, I'm sorry. He's actually apologizing to me. I was wrong about the Snow situation. I shouldn't have accused you without hearing your side of the story. I owe you an apology." He stood up and gave me a deep, formal bow. If I were still that naive Dove from my past life, I might have been moved by this display of remorse, but now, I just feel sick to my stomach. I picked up the coffee in front of me, took a small sip, and said nothing. Seeing that I wasn't reacting, he started to get anxious. "Dove, I know it's too late for apologies now, but Snow, she's learned her lesson. Her family is ruined too. Look, could you possibly," he stammered and finally revealed his true intentions, "could you tell the police you've forgiven her, or just say she's young and made a foolish mistake in the heat of the moment? If you'd be willing to provide a letter of forgiveness, she might get a lighter sentence." I set down my coffee cup, looked up, and smiled. My smile sent a chill down his spine. "Victor, what makes you think I would ever agree to this?" I rose to my feet, looking down at him as I spoke each word with deliberate emphasis. Not only will I refuse to issue a letter of understanding, I will hire the best lawyer to file a criminal against her for intentional injury. I'm going to make sure she rots in prison. He trembled with rage. Dove, do you have to be this ruthless? Show some mercy where you can. Be lenient whenever possible. I let out a bitter laugh, as if hearing the most absurd joke. How ironic, coming from you. I leaned down and whispered those words into his ear, in a voice meant only for the two of us. Brother Victor, is the fire on the back mountain still raging? Once again, all color drained from his face, I straightened up and stared at him coldly. Go tell your father to get his money ready, soon enough. Your Arthur family will need to hire lawyers too. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him alone to slowly drown in endless fear. The scandal rocked the entire North City. Shocking. Listed company Vither Industries found funneling massive funds to unlicensed chemical plant. Collusion between officials and business, exposing the protective umbrella behind Hongfa chemical plant. From school anniversary tragedy to corporate scandals, how close are we to the truth? One after another, these reports pierced straight into the heart of Arthur's family like sharp daggers. Vither Industries' stock price plummeted, wiping out billions in market value within 3 days. Outraged investors stormed Vither Industries' headquarters, unfurling banners and demanding answers from Arthur. A joint task force comprising tax, commerce, environmental, and public security authorities descended upon Vither Industries with lightning speed. Arthur's world came crashing down. Arthur was overwhelmed with troubles and sought help everywhere, only to find that all those so-called friends who used to call him brother were now avoiding him like the plague. That's just how things are. A week later, the investigation results came out. Arthur was arrested on multiple charges including tax evasion, illegal business operations, and commercial bribery. Vither Industries has been ordered to suspend operations for restructuring, faces massive fines, and it's only a matter of time before bankruptcy liquidation. I saw the footage on the news of Arthur being taken away in handcuffs. His hair had turned gray, his face etched with defeat, all traces of his former vigor gone. Meanwhile, I was sitting by the window in the school library, bathed in warm sunlight, holding a book about the history of ballet, watching the news footage of Victor sobbing and chasing after the police car. That heart-wrenching sight was truly delightful to behold. It was a text message from an unknown number. Dove, I'm begging you, please leave my family alone. It was Victor. I chuckled, deleted the text message, and set my phone to silent. I didn't want this nonsense to ruin my reading mood any longer. Another month passed. The trial for Snow and her uncle's case began. As the plaintiff, I attended the court hearing. When I saw Snow again, she was completely unrecognizable. Despite medical treatment, the scar on her face remained gruesome and horrifying. Dressed in prison garb with handcuffs, her hair was brittle and straw-like, her eyes hollow, like a flower that had withered beyond revival. When she saw me sitting in the plaintiff's seat, wearing an elegant suit, with impeccable makeup and a radiant glow, a wild fire instantly ignited in her lifeless eyes. Dove, you bitch, you did this to me, you did this to me, she screamed like a madwoman, struggling to break free from the bailiff's grip as she lunged toward me. The courtroom descended into chaos. The judge banged the gavel and shouted for order. Throughout it all, I simply watched her calmly, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on my lips. Your suffering is my greatest solace. In the end, Griffin was sentenced to life imprisonment for multiple crimes. As for Snow, with my lawyer presenting substantial evidence of her malicious intent and her complete lack of remorse, she was ultimately convicted of intentional assault and sentenced to 15 years in prison. By the time she gets out, she'll be a middle-aged woman pushing 40. Her life is completely ruined. The moment the verdict was read, she completely broke down, collapsing to the floor like a limp rag. As for me, I stood up and walked out of the courtroom with my head held high. Under the complex gazes of everyone present, at the entrance stood a figure. Victor. He looked even more haggard than the last time we met, dressed in a cheap, wrinkled t-shirt, with greasy hair, stubble covering his face, and sunken eyes. He looked like a homeless man. When he saw me, there was no hatred or fear in his eyes, only a kind of ashen despair. Dove, he called out to me, his voice raspy as if scraped by sandpaper. I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at him. Why? He asked, as if questioning me. Yet also himself. Didn't we grow up together, when we were kids? I chased away those bullies who picked on you. For your birthday, I spent 6 months' worth of savings to buy you that music box you loved so much. Why are you doing this to me, to my family? He brought up those distant memories I had nearly forgotten. Those precious memories I once cherished now sounded utterly ironic. I looked at him and suddenly found the situation rather amusing. Victor, don't you think it's a bit late to bring this up now? I walked toward him slowly, step by step, as if Treading on his heart, you helped chase away the bullies, but in the end, you became the worst one of all. You gave me a music box, yet later, you were the one who crushed my throat with your own hands. You asked me why. I stood firmly before him, staring straight into his clouded eyes, and spoke each word with deliberate clarity, because, in our past life, you and Snow lured me to the back hills, disfigured my face with sulfuric acid, burned through my throat with hot charcoal, and so they danced dress into my flesh with thick needles, because you stood by and watched as wild wolves devoured me, then filmed it to destroy what's left of my parents' lives, because you personally opened my family's door, letting your deranged future mother-in-law butcher my parents alive in the living room, one slash at a time. Victor, now you tell me, why shouldn't I do the same to you? Every word I spoke was like an invisible hammer, brutally pounding into his very soul. His body began to tremble uncontrollably, his face turned from ashen to deathly pale, and finally took on a bluish-purple hue. He pointed at me, his throat emitting a gurgling sound, unable to form a complete sentence. It came back to him, every word I'd said to him that day in the coffee shop. He finally understood it wasn't his imagination, nor was it an empty threat from me, it was real. The woman standing before him was a vengeful spirit risen from hell, carrying the bitterness of 2 lifetimes, here to claim his life. With a heavy thud, his legs gave way, and he dropped to his knees before me, clutching my legs. He wept bitterly, looking utterly broken and defeated. I was wrong, Dove, I was truly wrong. I'm begging you, please, for the sake of all our years growing up together, have mercy on me. He kept kowtowing, over and over, until his forehead was soon bleeding. Curious glances came from passers-by around them. I frowned in disgust and kicked him away. Spare you. I crouched down, grabbed his chin, and forced him to look up into my eyes. Go to hell and ask my parents if they'd ever forgive you. I smiled with satisfaction at the extinguished light in his eyes. I stood up, turned away without another glance, and walked into the brilliant sunlight. Behind me echoed his hysterical laughter, a mad, desperate sound laced with sheer terror. I knew it then. He had lost his mind, driven to insanity by my own hand. This was the final spectacle I had orchestrated for every last one of them. It was my mom calling, "Hey Dove, are you done over there? Dad made your favorite sweet and sour pork ribs. We're waiting for you to come home for dinner." On the other end of the line was the most familiar, warmest voice I knew. I sniffled, and tried to make my voice sound as normal as ever. "Yeah, it's over, Mom. I'll be right back." After hanging up, I lifted my head and gazed at the pristine blue sky. "Dad, Mom, can you see it? Your daughter. I have avenged you." Story 2. Our clan accidentally shattered the unhatched air egg of the Phoenix tribe. To atone for this, my mother promised the Phoenix tribe that either my sister or I would be sent to nurture the Phoenix egg. In our past life, my younger sister volunteered for this duty. Alas, the young master of the Phoenix clan met an untimely demise. My sister became collateral damage, earning the Phoenix clan's enmity. Even our own family turned their backs on her, while I ascended as the clan's new heir, basking in glory. My sister, consumed by hatred, ultimately chose to perish with me in a final act of vengeance. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on that fateful day of decision. This time, my younger sister knelt before our mother of her own accord. "I don't want to go. Our clan accidentally harmed the unborn young master of the Phoenix tribe, leaving him with barely a flicker of life. The Phoenix tribe demands we provide a proper explanation, or they'll declare war." Fortunately, our Fei Fei clan possesses healing abilities, which might help atone for this transgression, but with the decline in bloodline purity, few in our clan still inherit the healing gift. Of suitable age and ability, only my sister Lila and I remain. Seated upon the high throne is my mother, the current matriarch of our Fei Fei clan. In our Fei Fei lineage, the mantle of leadership has always passed through the female line, for our women better inherit the ancestral bloodline's power. Iris, Lila, you both understand the current situation. For your own sake and for our clan, one of you must go to the Phoenix tribe. Mother's expression remained unreadable as she spoke in that deceptively gentle yet iron-willed tone of hers. Before I could react, my sister Lila eagerly threw herself forward and knelt before Mother. "Mother, I only wish to serve you faithfully by your side. Please don't send me to the Phoenix clan. Let me stay with you." Seeing Lila's voluntary plea to remain, Mother seized the opportunity. "Very well. Then Iris shall go instead. Remember your duty. You must take good care of the Phoenix clan's young master." She made the decision without even consulting me, but as it happens, I wanted to go anyway. I deferred to Mother's judgment in all matters. I gave a slight bow, my tone neutral. Seeing I wasn't objecting, Lila quickly spoke up. "I'm certain elder sister will take excellent care of the Phoenix clan's young master. After all, your bloodline purity surpasses mine, so your healing abilities must be superior. My bloodline is the purest in 3 generations, a fact Lila had Always resented, yet now, just to avoid going to the Phoenix clan, she's actually bringing it up herself. Mother nodded in agreement. Only by healing the Phoenix clan's heir can we prevent conflict between our clans. Indeed, Iris, you're clearly the better choice. I kept my head bowed to conceal my expression, replying in a barely audible voice, as you wish, Mother. Very well, it's settled then, Iris. Go pack your belongings and set off immediately, though I've long known this woman, my own mother, always puts profit above all else, but being rushed to leave like this still stung my heart, yet no one cared how I truly felt. My sister Lila was busy fawning over Mother, coaxing endless smiles from her. Very well, you sisters should spend some time together now. It may be long before we see each other again. Lila obediently agreed, but the moment we stepped out of the main hall, her expression turned haughty as she addressed me. Iris, the heir's position will be mine this time. As for you, prepare to face the wrath of the Phoenix clan. This might sound strange to others, but only Lila and I understand its true meaning. Lila and I had been reborn. We both knew at the moment we locked eyes in the main hall. Though startled to be reborn at this crucial moment, Lila probably didn't realize how treacherous the path to becoming heir truly was. Soon came the day of departure to the Phoenix clan. With my sister Lila and Mother seeing me off, Mother's face remained impassive as she admonished me sternly, Iris, always remember your station. Every action reflects upon our family. Don't let trivial matters distract you. I bowed respectfully, but she simply fell silent as if concluding official business, never once acknowledging me as her daughter. As Mother finished speaking, Lila immediately stepped forward with cheerful enthusiasm. Oh Mother, don't worry about sister, she's so capable. Of course she'll be fine, but she'd better not let anything happen to the young master of the Phoenix clan, or she'll become the entire clan's greatest disgrace. Lila's voice dripped with feigned innocence, her words seemingly considerate of me, but I knew she was just waiting to see me fail spectacularly. After all, in her past life, she failed to save the Phoenix clan's young master and became the clan's most reviled traitor. Now that the tables have turned, she's practically salivating at the thought of me suffering the same fate. I completely ignored her, bid farewell to Mother with our luggage, and boarded the spirit vessel without delay. The sight of Lila's contorted, furious face as we departed is something I'll never forget, but I soon had no time to dwell on Lila, for a far more pressing matter demanded my attention. My brow furrowed as I stared at the half-meter-tall phoenix egg before me. Miss Yun, is there something wrong with the young master? The steward assigned by the Phoenix clan grew uneasy as he noticed me frowning intently at their heir. No. Nothing's wrong, I was just contemplating how to better nurture the young master. No need to worry. The steward's question snapped me out of my thoughts. I sighed inwardly with regret. What a shame. That egg looked absolutely delicious. As if sensing my thoughts, the gorgeous crimson phoenix egg suddenly wobbled before rolling slightly away from me. Good heavens, young master, do be careful. The elderly steward rushed forward to steady the phoenix egg, carefully repositioning it before exhaling. In relief upon confirming no damage, TSK, I took a silent step back. Truly a high bloodline species, sensitive even to unspoken thoughts. Miss Yun, we'll entrust our young master's spiritual nourishment to your care from now on. I trust your Fei clan will deliver satisfactory results. The old steward's expression turned stern when addressing me. Had I not witnessed it myself, I'd never have believed this was the same person who'd been so tender with that egg moments ago. Understood, you have my word. I detected the veiled reprimand in the steward's words but took no offense. After all, it was our clan that damaged their precious egg. A bit of attitude was to be expected. What's more, thanks to their young master's grace, I've been able to break free from my past life's trajectory and embark on a completely different path. Time flies. 3 months have passed since I arrived at the Phoenix clan, and countless events have unfolded during this period. The most recent highlight was undoubtedly my dear sister Lila becoming a candidate for the Fei clan's heir, basking in glorious limelight. Perhaps due to retaining memories of her past life, this incarnation of Lila has shown remarkable growth in both power and maturity. Within just 3 months, she's elevated her leadership status within the clan to remarkable heights. Among all heir candidates, she's undoubtedly the frontrunner with the strongest backing and highest chances. Frankly speaking, ever since she became an heir candidate, the letters I've received from her, or more accurately, taunting missives, have been arriving non-stop. Though I only glance at them occasionally, I can't help but admire her relentless persistence. As for me, these 3 months have been quite productive. The most noticeable achievement is my current fame among the Phoenix clan. If 3 months ago I was known as the Fei clansman sent to make amends, now I'm probably best described as the biggest eater from the Fei tribe. Well, I've successfully carved up my own niche in the Phoenix clan's foodie circles within just 3 months, of course. All this was only possible because I've been taking excellent care of their precious egg. What makes it truly special isn't just its restorative properties, but how I carry this precious egg with me everywhere, never letting go, not even in sleep, though they probably don't realize the real reason I keep it close day and night. It's wonderfully warm, absolutely, gloriously warm. This phoenix embodies fire itself, wielding rebirth flames that may not consume all creation, but rank among heaven and earth's most formidable. In this bitterly cold winter, the phoenix egg makes such a perfect hand warmer. I simply can't put it down. Miss Yun, a letter for you. When the attendant's announcement came from beyond the door, I was curled up with the toasty phoenix egg on a divan draped with Millennium Cloud Tiger Fur TSK. This couch potato lifestyle is downright addictive, living the dream. Just put it on the table for me. Dismissing the attendant, I used spiritual energy to lift the letter from the table. The handwriting was unmistakably familiar. TCH, that woman Lila really is persistent. Gently unfolding Lila's letter, I was met with the same old provocative tone, utterly predictable, but when I reached the end, I abruptly sat up from the chaise lounge. What? Lila's been named heir, and she's inviting me to her coronation ceremony. Just last month in her letter, she was still saying she'd become the Fei Fei clan's heir someday. How did this happen so fast? That someday came rushing in like a freight train, returning to this familiar place, yet everything feels strangely different. The palace draped in crimson silks is almost blinding. One might mistake this for Lila's wedding. Young mistress, you've returned, but today of all days, my sudden return left the clansfolk stunned, their expressions shifting awkwardly as they remembered today was Lila's coronation. Their expressions told me everything. My dear sister had clearly invited me here privately on purpose. No doubt she's been waiting to see me make a fool of myself. The clansfolk noticed me staring silently at the red palace drapes and began whispering among themselves. Why would the young mistress return today of all days? Miss Lila is being crowned today, yet the young mistress can only watch from below. Sigh, the young mistress was the most likely successor before. Pity she joined the Phoenix clan. Who knows when she'll truly return for good? Exactly, and that phoenix egg needs constant care. Even as heir, she'd be stretched too thin. True, look, she's still cradling the phoenix egg now. What a shame. Dazzled by the fluttering red silks, I inwardly groaned at the thought of losing my appetite for crimson pheasant anytime soon. With hushed whispers buzzing in my ears, I could only raise an exasperated brow. What kind of bratty little beast is Lila supposed to be, still playing mind games at this stage? Don't tell me they actually think such petty tactics could rattle me. If that's truly the case, well, I suppose I overestimated her. Just then, a familiar voice rang out from afar, dripping with smug satisfaction. Sister's back. Today's my coronation ceremony. I'm absolutely delighted you could make it. Ugh, that same old tone. Has Lila only grown in power without gaining an ounce of sense? I never realized I meant so much to you, little sister, cradling the warm phoenix egg in my arms. I spoke with a beaming smile. My words made Lila choke momentarily, her expression flickering before quickly recomposing itself. Clad in a crimson coronation gown with exquisite makeup, she strode toward me, her face alight with a triumphant smile as she whispered, surprised, Iris, the heirship is mine this time. You'll soon become the entire Fei clan's greatest disgrace. The overpowering scent of her spirit makeup powder made me instinctively take a step back. I pushed her face away with my index finger. Forget pretending sisterly affection. That cloying cosmetic fragrance was downright unbearable. Before Lila could react to my rudeness, I shoved a perfectly conventional, faultless congratulatory gift from my storage space into her arms. Yes, congratulations, here's your gift. I'm heading back to my chambers. Do whatever you please, don't mind me. With that, I turned and flew straight toward my palace on my spiritual steed. As for Lila's frustration, like punching cotton, leaving her fuming with that ridiculous look on her face, I couldn't care less. My main purpose today was to retrieve something from my palace chambers, a rare medicinal ingredient, phoenix tree blossoms. I never actually agreed to attend Lila's coronation ceremony. Tapping along the palace bedroom walls, I finally recalled the location of my secret chamber. Stepping inside, I quickly found the phoenix flower in the elixir case. Holding the phoenix flower, I smiled contentedly. My memory hadn't failed me after all. As the name suggests, this is a blossom from the sacred parasol tree, but what makes mine special is its origin from the century-old phoenix parasol, a legendary variant where phoenixes nest. Parasol blossoms naturally benefit their kind. Among these, the rarest blooms come from the millennial phoenix parasols that emerge only once every 10,000 years. I'd obtained this specimen during a serendipitous encounter in my past life. Though the memory had faded after Rebirth's long passage of time, with the prize secured, I saw no reason to linger. After leaving the bedchamber, I summoned a nearby guard to inform Lila before preparing to depart. Unfortunately, some little sisters just can't help being insufferable brats. Where are you running off to, sister? Surely you're not skipping my coronation out of sheer inadequacy. Hearing that familiarly grating voice behind me, I seriously contemplated the consequences of giving her the beating she deserved, did the math, and it's not worth it. Guess I'll just grin and bear it. I turned away with a smile, betraying no hint of my earlier urge to smack Lila. What sweet words, little sister, since you've come and delivered the gifts, this elder sister should return to the Phoenix clan post-haste. I shan't overstay. Lila reached for my hand with a laugh, only to have me deflect her with the phoenix egg. Her smile froze momentarily before she quickly regained composure. Dearest sister, surely you jest. Today marks not only my coronation but also the succession rite. Would you deny me your blessings in this moment? TCH. This nonsense again. Clenching my teeth in annoyance, I vowed to catch extra rainbow koi later to make up for this affront, though. This succession rite. A prickle of suspicion crept into my thoughts. Little sister, are you sure you want me to stay? I decided to give Lila one last chance and countered her question. Lila replied with smug determination, of course, for such an important occasion, I simply must have my big sister by my side. TCH, don't say I didn't warn you. I agreed with a beaming smile and even took the initiative to head toward the main hall. Sweet sister, you're the one who invited me. Remember, Lila seemed momentarily stunned by my sudden change in attitude, but quickly arranged an escort for me. Her behavior practically screamed that she was about to become the young mistress. Without protest, I followed along while cradling the warm phoenix egg. It's not that I can't take her on, I just can't be bothered to deal with her. The coronation ceremony will commence shortly. Mother arrived late with the elders, only to visibly frown upon seeing me. Iris, why are you back? Shouldn't you be nurturing the young heir among the Phoenix clan? Mother began by questioning me with clear disapproval in her voice, though I knew she'd never treated me particularly well. Facing her criticism directly still made my heart ache involuntarily. The phoenix egg in my palm seemed to sense my distress, warming the spot where it touched my skin. This sudden warmth quickly brought me back to my senses. Stroking the phoenix egg, I remained seated and met Mother's gaze directly as I responded. Of course I'd return for such an important occasion as my sister's coronation. Even the Phoenix clan raised no objections. There's no need for your concern, Mother. Mother seemed taken aback by my sudden change in attitude, momentarily at a loss for words. As the confrontation unfolded, the other elders arrived one after another. Their expressions showed both surprise at my return and subtle regret. Though none voiced it, I knew exactly what they regretted. After all, I was once the clan's most promising candidate for young master. To them, my current circumstances likely appear as nothing but bitter resentment. My past self might have resented this, but to my current reincarnated self, it matters little. In this second life, I just want to laze around like a carefree mythical beast. When the elders entered, Mother finally restrained her temper. With an icy demeanor, she took the seat of honor while the elders arranged themselves in order of precedence. Whether intentional or not, my assigned seat was demoted from the third position on the right, traditionally reserved for the chief's heir below two elders, to an ordinary spot further down. The hushed whispers of clansfolk reached my ears, their murmurs uniformly pitying my current predicament. TSK, Lila always resorts to the same old tricks, as I muttered to myself. Lila reached the center of the grand hall and began her coronation ceremony. The coronation ceremony for the young mistress now commences. The 1258th young mistress of the Feifei clan, Lila, gentle in temperament and exceptional in ability, shall today, hearing the familiar coronation vows, I felt as though I'd been transported back to my own enthronement in a past life, crown the successor, begin the legacy. The elder spirit officiant's voice snapped me back to attention. The succession ritual was about to commence. Holding the heir's jade scepter, Lila faced the crowd while her gaze remained fixed on me. Awaiting the rite's arrival, her eyes brimmed with smug superiority, regarding me with undisguised contempt. The legacy beam descended from the sky, its golden-tinged radiance streaking straight toward Lila, only to freeze mere inches from her. Every eye locked onto the luminous strand. Mother furrowed her brows while the elders exchanged baffled glances. Lila took a confused step forward, startling the motionless beam into recoiling. Then, to everyone's shock, it pivoted and came barreling toward me. No, come back. What's happening? The heir's jade pendant is right here. Why? Lila stared at the sudden turn of events with a frenzied, almost deranged look of fury and bewilderment. I reached up to touch the familiar beam of light before me. Yes, just as I remembered the sensation, Lila's hysterical accusations continued unabated as murmurs spread through the gathered clansfolk. Iris, what underhanded trick did you pull? Why would the legacy beam choose you? Why? Tisk, I clicked my tongue. Silently, why does it feel like Lila's gone completely off the rails since her rebirth? You've got it all wrong, little sister. I genuinely don't know why this happened, no tricks up my sleeve. I poured on the innocent act thick. What goes around comes around. Time for Lila to taste her own annoying medicine, not you. Don't play dumb. You're clearly after my air position. That's why. Enough, Lila, hold your tongue. Seeing Lila's words growing increasingly outrageous, Mother finally intervened to silence her. Then, with respectful deference, she turned to address the spirit elder. Might the elder enlighten us as to why this occurred? The elder spirit envoy pondered briefly before speaking with uncertainty in his voice. I vaguely recall seeing in our clan's ancient texts that during succession rituals, if someone with superior bloodline is present, the inheritance would default to them. Though I can't vouch for the accuracy of this claim, this knowledge also came to me in a past life through our ancestral records, though tonight marks its first practical confirmation. Historically, our clan heirs have always coincidentally held the purest bloodlines, making this scenario unprecedented. That's why Mother and the others didn't send me away when they saw me. Had they known the truth, they'd never have let Lila keep me. Lila's face contorted with rage upon hearing the spirit elder's words. The message was crystal clear. The legacy beam was rejecting her for having inferior bloodline purity. Iris, why? Why does everything good always go to you? First the young master was. Seeing her words spiral into absurdity, I quickly cut her off. I've no intention of reliving my past life's drudgery. This time, I'm content being a lazy little fei-fei. Lila, I don't know what gave you that idea. I never intended to take what's yours. As for this legacy, it chose me on its own, but I won't be keeping it either. With that, I summoned a barrier of spiritual energy between myself and the legacy beam. It strained against the divide, testing my resolve, before finally relenting and darting toward Lila instead. My move left Lila in an awkward bind, too prideful to back down, yet too desperate to refuse the legacy. In the end, she grudgingly accepted the second-rate inheritance. This should have been her crowning moment, yet even with the inheritance secured, Lila felt no triumph, only bitter resentment. The venomous glare Lila shot me while receiving the legacy spoke volumes. No guesswork needed to know her thoughts. Arching a brow, I sipped the spirit tea with amusement, distracted during a sacred inheritance. Lila's recklessness beggared belief. No sooner had the thought crossed my mind than Lila, seated at the hall center, coughed up a mouthful of blood. My teacup froze midair. Well, called it. TSK, Lila's gonna hold an even bigger grudge against me now. Serves her right though. After returning from Lila's coronation, I've been in such high spirits that I devoured half the Phoenix clan's prized crimson-feathered spirit chickens and rainbow koi. The old steward gives me this agonized look every time we cross paths. Poor man probably can't wrap his head around why the Fei-Fei clan's young mistress is such a glutton. My main purpose for returning to the clan last time was precisely for the phoenix tree blossoms. In our previous life, Lila was responsible for nurturing the phoenix egg. I didn't know much about its condition then, but now that the task has fallen to me in this lifetime, I've begun to understand why the incubation failed last time. The phoenix egg possesses pure lineage and requires substantial energy for growth, yet it suffered external damage. While our Fei-Fei clan's healing abilities can mend its wounds, we cannot replenish its energy reserves. Over time, the egg grew increasingly weaker from energy depletion. These phoenix tree blossoms happen to be a remarkable medicinal herb that can effectively provide nourishing energy to the phoenix egg. I only came across this specimen by sheer chance. According to ancient texts I've studied, using phoenix tree flowers alone would significantly diminish their medicinal potency. They're best paired with other herbs. This particular herb grows atop snow-capped peaks and is exceptionally rare. I've decided to make the journey myself to search for it. With my supplies packed and everything in order, I was ready to set out, until I realized I'd overlooked one crucial detail: the phoenix egg. The phoenix clan's bloodline is purest among all, and the phoenix egg is the most extraordinary of them all. Though still unhatched, it already possesses sentience and can project fragments of its consciousness. That's why when I tried to leave it with the clan and go alone, the egg blocked my path. Young master, Mission means well. Staying with the clan would be safer for you. The old steward pleaded earnestly to the fiery red egg hovering before me. Exactly, I nodded vigorously in agreement from the sidelines, sensing my approval. The phoenix egg seemed to grow even angrier. Its crimson hue deepened as it floated before me, radiating indignation while circling around me incessantly. With great determination, it seemed I wouldn't leave this door today unless I took it along. Well, perhaps Mission could take the young master with her after all. With our clan's protective treasures, he'd be perfectly safe. The old steward, unable to bear seeing his young master's furious expression, swiftly changed his stance. Seeing my continued hesitation, he played his trump card. When Mission returns, our clan's crimson phoenix chickens and luminescent fish will have multiplied abundantly. We'll make sure you feast to your heart's content. The mention of food instantly perked me up from my lazy stupor. I hugged the giant egg with a beaming smile. No need for formalities. Looking after the young master is my duty. Though I wouldn't say no to chicken or fish if you've prepared any. After some half-hearted polite refusals, I agreed to bring the phoenix egg, which meant I'd need to make extra preparations. Consequently, I postponed our departure by 3 days. Just then, Lila unexpectedly arrived at the Phoenix clan. Lila, what brings her here? I asked in puzzlement upon hearing the attendant's announcement. Never mind, show her in. Though strange, I've always believed in meeting challenges as they come. Lila was promptly ushered in, though still impeccably dressed after all this time. Her eyes betrayed deep exhaustion. Just one look at her told me she was utterly exhausted, though she kept putting on a brave face. In my past life, I was the same. Becoming the Yen Master meant not just supreme authority, but greater responsibility for the Feifei clan's future. Since the Feifei clan excels in healing but lacks combat prowess, their development environment isn't exactly perilous, yet far from ideal. I devoted my entire previous life to the Feifei clan, losing myself in the process. That's why in this rebirth, I'm determined to live as a carefree slacker. Lila, what do you want from me? My tone was icy cold, but for Lila, who'd already burned bridges with me, she deserved nothing less. Oh sister, must you be so formal? When little sister comes to see you, it's naturally to offer help. With these words, she produced an ornate box and presented it to me. Lila slowly opened it, revealing a fiery red spirit stone glowing within. Sister, this is the premium core from the fire Spirit Vein and Flame Cave of Crimson Ridge Mountains. It could greatly enhance your bloodline powers. The more Lila insisted, the warier I became, a weasel giving New Year's greetings to a chicken. Since when was she so kind-hearted? Seeing me silently examining the spirit or core, Lila suddenly leaned closer with a smile. Does sister distrust me? Why don't I test it for you first? The moment she finished speaking, Lila suddenly lunged at me. I instantly countered, knocking her aside, only for her to seize the opportunity and hurl the spirit or core toward the phoenix egg. Damn it, she was feinting to misdirect me. I dove for the phoenix egg, but a second too late, the spirit or core made contact and swiftly fused into it. Lila, you're dead. I blasted her away with a single strike and urgently checked the phoenix egg's condition. The phoenix egg grew scalding hot, trembling violently as if about to shatter. Haha. Stop struggling, Iris, it's pointless. While the spirit or core nourishes the phoenix egg, its overwhelming heat will scorch it to death. Lila spat blood as she spoke, her expression deranged and vicious. Seeing me focused on channeling spiritual energy into the egg, she spoke again. Useless, absolutely useless. This is exactly how it died in the past life. This time, I'll make sure you experience the torment of becoming a sinner too. Mid-confrontation, the old steward arrived with reinforcements upon hearing the commotion, swiftly restraining Lila before rushing anxiously to inspect the phoenix egg. Young master, young master. The steward frantically circled the phoenix egg, helpless yet seething with rage. Whirling around, he gripped Lila's throat and demanded, "Tell me how to save him now, or I'll end your miserable life." Impossible, unless we obtain a phoenix tree blossom. Lila could barely speak under the butler's overwhelming pressure. Upon receiving the news, the old steward abruptly released her and immediately dispatched servants to urgently search for phoenix flowers. Wait, I halted the old steward, carefully producing a flower, none other than the phoenix blossom I had retrieved earlier. Ignoring Lila's wide-eyed astonishment, I channeled my spiritual energy, meticulously guiding the phoenix flower to merge with the phoenix egg. How? Where did you get this? You actually have phoenix flowers? Lila thrashed wildly, her voice shrill with hysteria. Before I could silence her, the old steward knocked her unconscious with a surge of spiritual energy. We couldn't deal with her immediately. The phoenix egg took priority. As the phoenix egg merged with the parasol flower, its condition gradually stabilized, but soon, strange movements began again. I panicked instinctively. Was the parasol flower ineffective after all? Suddenly, the old steward exclaimed in shock, "The young master is hatching." What? It's hatching. It's really hatching. I stood dumbfounded before the fiery red giant egg. Turns out the spirit or core combined with phoenix flowers perfectly met all the phoenix eggs requirements, triggering its hatching. After several cracking sounds, a crimson creature resembling an exalted vermilion phoenix chicken emerged from the shattered shell. Moments later, watching the spectacle unfold, my mind went completely blank. With the hatching of the Phoenix clan's young master, the crisis was finally averted. Now it's time to deal with Lila. Though Lila's actions were despicable to the Phoenix clan, she couldn't be executed unilaterally as she was the heir of the Feifei clan. The Phoenix clan ultimately consulted with the Feifei clan to jointly decide Lila's punishment. Lila, do you admit your crimes? Mother remained regal as ever, her commanding presence undiminished even with the Phoenix elders seated beside her. Lila knelt at the center, drenched in blood. The wounds inflicted by the old steward had gone untreated, leaving her grievously injured. Admit guilt. What crime have I committed? I merely acted on my desires. Why must Iris always be the golden child? While I remained beneath her shadow, why, blood trickled from Lila's mouth as she shouted her defiance. Utterly indifferent to her condition, the mother frowned coldly, her voice icy. This doesn't justify your attack on the Phoenix clan's young master. Since you remain so obstinate, I see no point in further discussion. Grand Elder, please proceed according to our laws. The mother glanced at the Grand Elder seated below her. She knew that whether to answer to the Phoenix clan or their own Fenghuang tribe, Lila couldn't be protected today. As for her, a worthless daughter deserved no emotional investment on this matter. It's clear to both Lila and me, such is the cold indifference of those in power. The Grand Elder gave a slight nod to Mother before rising and approaching Lila. Lila, by clan law, you should be stripped of the legacy beam and have your meridians destroyed, but in light of your past contributions, I'll only sever your spiritual power, sparing your meridians. Without hesitation, she struck with ruthless precision, ignoring the terror in Lila's eyes. Amid Lila's agonized screams, a radiant beam of legacy energy was forcibly extracted from her body. The Grand Elder then channeled another surge of spiritual power, shattering Lila's Dantian core beyond repair. From this moment onward, Lila would remain an ordinary Feifei beast. Stripped of her healing gifts and devoid of all spiritual energy, the old steward disapproved of the Grand Elder's harsh punishment, but with the young master unharmed and unwilling to cause open conflict, he merely snorted in displeasure without voicing objections. As the Grand Elder concluded his execution of justice, Lila collapsed onto the ground like a broken puppet, her voice turned hoarse. Strip me of my legacy beam. For whom? Iris, I knew it. As Lila kept muttering, I rose and strode to her before crouching down. Lila, I never cared about anything you possessed from the start. That heir position you covet, that's just your own obsession. Seeing her still unconvinced, I pointed at a young girl beneath the elder's seat. See that? She's the one likely to inherit the legacy beam, and in any case, it was never meant to be me. That little girl was someone I discovered in the Branch clan. Both her sire and dam perished in an accident, leaving her as the sole survivor. She's been under the care of an elder from the Branch clan. Once I witnessed her practicing healing magic. The radiance she emitted was remarkably potent. Later I took her for bloodline testing. Just as I suspected, her bloodline power isn't inferior to Lila's. In fact, one could say it surpasses Lila's by no small margin. If she proves worthy in time, she'll be the most likely candidate to inherit the legacy. In any case, it certainly won't be me. As Lila listened, she suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, her breathing growing faint as she murmured weakly, "Then what was the point of my lifelong struggle? Was I wrong all along?" I watched her without joy or sorrow, merely answering in a low voice, "In this life or the last, Lila, I never wanted to compete with you. With everything settled now, I couldn't care less about what became of Lila. Now that the Phoenix egg has hatched and the clan's new heir is chosen, I just want to find a cozy place rich in spiritual energy to live out my lazy retirement." Everything was going smoothly until some bizarre mishap occurred. Now I'm stuck with this situation. That little Phoenix hatchling won't leave me alone. Phoenixes grow up incredibly fast, and considering it stayed in its egg for extra years, this one could already shapeshift just a few years after hatching. Now it clings to me every single day, downright clingy. Just as I was lost in thought, that familiar voice reached my ears again. "Sis, look at this crimson-feathered spirit pheasant I caught for you today." The boy's golden eyes sparkled brightly, his whole being radiant like blazing fire, clutching a plump crimson spirit chicken as he came barreling toward me. "Sis, did you miss me today?" He nuzzled against my neck while speaking until I pushed his forehead away with a single finger. "Stop being clingy. Did you practice your cultivation today? Finish your studies. Let's do that spirit chicken for dinner." The boy looked crestfallen when I pushed him aside, but answered me with earnest sincerity. "Practiced, studied, don't worry. All right, let's do it. TSK, though a bit rowdy, I'll grudgingly put up with it for the sake of the spirit chicken." The End. Story 2. In the previous apocalyptic cold era, I accepted the advice of my neighbor I had lived with for 8 years, shared supplies with her, and got through the hard times together. When the temperature reached its lowest point, she stripped me naked and pushed me out of the door. "You are younger than me. You should go out to find rescue supplies so we can survive." I finally froze to death outside. When I opened my eyes again, I was back 3 days before the arrival of the apocalyptic Cold this time. It's her turn to go out and find rescue supplies, isn't it? I suddenly open my eyes, and the supermarket freezer lights hurt my eyes. The cashier in front of me impatiently asked me, "Madam, are you going to buy it?" I looked at the frozen dumplings in my hand, which were priced at 19.9 yuan, and the ice crystals on the packaging made me shiver. I'm not dead. I quickly took out my phone and saw that the screen showed December 25th, 2035, at 3:27 p.m. At this moment, I was certain I had been reborn. 3 days before the arrival of the freezing apocalypse, memories came rushing back. In my previous life, the freezing apocalypse suddenly arrived, and the temperature dropped to 70 degrees below zero within 48 hours. I followed the advice of my neighbor Nix, who I had lived with for 8 years, and combined our supplies to survive the cold together. However, on the coldest night, she took off my down jacket and thermal underwear while I was sick and weak, and pushed me outside. "Maeve, since you're already sick, why not leave the supplies for me?" I struggled in the wind of 75 degrees below zero for less than 10 minutes before losing consciousness, and finally became one of the many ice sculptures on the community square. "Now, I have a second chance. Take 5 more boxes." I smiled at the cashier, paid, and quickly walked towards the supermarket exit. Stepping out of the supermarket, I shivered. Although it's just a normal low temperature now, I know that 3 days from now, the temperature will drop to an unbearable level. I took out my phone and quickly made a list of the supplies I needed to prepare. "Maeve, what a coincidence." A familiar voice made my back go cold. I turned around and saw Nix coming towards me with a shopping bag. Her round face wore the same warm smile as in my memory. In the previous life, it was this face that showed me a sinister expression at the very end. I suppressed my anger and forced a smile on my face. "Nix, come. Buy something." She nodded. "Yes, I need to buy some daily necessities." Then she leaned closer to me and lowered her voice. "I heard that it might get colder soon. I'm preparing to stock up. You should also prepare some, just in case." I almost laughed out loud. In the previous life, she said the same thing, and then took everything from me without warning. This time, I won't make the same mistake again. I pretended to be confused. "Is that so?" "I didn't hear about it, but it's good to have more food, just in case the weather gets cold." She affectionately patted my shoulder. "That's right, when you need help, just say so. We've been neighbors for 8 years, so we know each other well." I responded with a smile. "Yes, you've taken care of me a lot over the years." I emphasized the words "take care" with a stronger tone, and she tightened her coat too. "What's the big deal? As the saying goes, a distant relative is not as good as a close neighbor. I'm planning to cook lamb soup tonight. Come over and have some with me, to warm up." I nodded and said goodbye to her. After parting, I didn't go home directly, but rented a car and started shopping frenetically. In the next 48 hours, I almost visited every hardware store, supermarket, pharmacy, and outdoor goods store in the city. Insulation materials, portable diesel heaters, heat insulation blankets, various convenience foods, high-calorie foods, water purification tablets, commonly available medicines and hand crank generators, etc. All the supplies that could save my life in the extreme cold were secretly brought back to my apartment. That night, after having a bowl of mutton soup at her house, I hurried back to my own house and started the construction and modification overnight. The height of the 15th floor was just enough to avoid most people's view, and the vacuum soundproof panels completely absorbed the sound of the drill. Behind the master bedroom wardrobe, a new hidden compartment was built, containing a diesel generator and 20 fuel tanks arranged in a silent formation. I was lucky to be born into a worker's family, and even luckier that my father forced me to study architectural engineering. I completed the simple renovation project in one whole night. As a tough girl, although it's not as solid as a fortress, it greatly increased the safety of survival. After finishing, I glanced at the thermometer, which showed an outdoor temperature of -20 degrees, 6 hours earlier than in my previous life. I touched my warm phone and answered Nix's call. "Maeve, the temperature is dropping so fast. It seems the rumors about the century cold wave are true." I intentionally let my lower teeth clash, then my voice trembled slightly. "Is that true? I don't even have a thick blanket at home." The sound of paper rustling came through the phone, and I could almost see her checking the stockpile list. Her voice carried an intentional gentleness. "Don't be afraid. I have a little at home. At a time like this, I think we can share resources and get through this together." After hanging up, I opened the monitoring app, which I had installed in her house when I went over for mutton soup yesterday. At this moment, the screen showed Nix hiding 2 boxes of instant noodles in the bedroom wardrobe, while only half a box of open cookies were in the living room. In the previous life, these were all the supplies she had hidden, and she never took them out even when we were about to starve. On the second day of the Extreme cold, the temperature plummeted to 45 degrees below zero, the entire building began to emit an unknown creaking sound, and the muffled sound of burst pipes occasionally came from downstairs. All the plants downstairs had completely lost their color, and the usually lively community square had become very quiet. Surprisingly, the business group was now very lively. Who has food? I'll pay 5,000 for a box of instant noodles. Who has fever medicine? I'll pay 10,000. What the hell is this weather? When will it end? My water pipe froze and burst. The property management person said to me, "Come on, you're so active in charging fees, now you're pretending not to hear." Seeing the continuous purchase requests and complaints in the group, I closed my phone. Wearing a thin sweater, I knocked on Nix's door. My lips were purple from the cold. "Nix sister, can I borrow an outerwear for a while?" The sound of teeth clashing was perfect without the need for acting. A cold light flashed in her eyes, but it quickly returned to normal. She took out a pilled old cotton jacket and handed it to me. "The supplies are getting tighter, don't be picky." After saying that, she looked at my empty hands with an implied meaning. I took out a half-pack of chocolate I had prepared from my pocket. "I found this in my home snack cabinet. We can use it as emergency supplies later." Her eyes lit up, but then quickly dimmed again. "It's a shame there's not enough." I broke open the chocolate, quickly smeared the powder hidden on my fingertips onto it, and then handed it to her. "These are for you. Take some when you can't bear it anymore." After nightfall, I watched her repeatedly count the supplies on the monitor. When she opened the medicine cabinet for the third time, she finally started coughing. The spice I added to the chocolate is starting to take effect. On the third day at dawn, the entire city fell into darkness. I made myself a cup of hot cocoa, watching the screen where Nix was wrapped in a blanket enjoying a cup of warm milk. On the fourth day morning, she was frantically knocking on my door. "Maeve, I have a fever. Do you have any medicine at home?" When I opened the door, I intentionally let the warm air flow into the hallway. Her puffy eyes immediately focused on the steaming electric pot behind me. The aroma of the boiling instant noodles made her throat bob. "Nix, come in. The hallway is very cold." After saying that, I scooped a spoonful of noodle soup and put a lot of noodles into it. "Nix, I only have one package left. You're seriously ill, eat more. I'll go get you some medicine." I took out a package of expired cold medicine and gave it to her. "Nix, I saw that you look very unwell. Maybe you can rest here for a while. I just finished cooking instant noodles, and my house is a bit warm. I suggest you bring everything you can use from your house to mine. We can keep each other warm and take care of each other to get through this terrible weather." After hearing my words, her face first showed a flash of pride, then quickly switched to a polite expression. "That's also a good idea." 3. After she fell asleep, I moved a thick quilt and a few pieces of dry bread from her house, and then she curled up on the sofa and fell asleep. After she fell asleep, I carefully examined the woman who once tried to kill me. Her eyelashes trembled in an uneasy dream, and I took a photo of her close-up with my phone, just like she posted my frozen body to the survivor group in the past life. By the 5th day, the outdoor temperature had reached minus 60 degrees, the wind was howling outside, and Nix hadn't recovered from her fever yet. Also, the originally lively property group had gradually become quiet. I think many people probably didn't make it and had already said goodbye to this world. Myself and Nix were curled up on the sofa under thick blankets. Actually, I had thermal underwear on under my clothes. "Maeve, I'm going back home to check if there's anything we can use for supplies, otherwise, we won't make it through." I nodded, watching her go home shivering. While she was away, I quickly made a cup of hot cocoa and softened some already frozen chocolate. Eating a big piece, I felt much warmer afterward. I opened the monitoring app and saw Nix cooking instant noodles, then put on another set of thermal underwear. After doing everything, her complexion improved. She took 2 pieces of compressed biscuits. She applied some powder to her face before going out, and her complexion turned back to pale. When she came back and gave me the compressed biscuit, I looked at her with concern. "Nix, maybe you should keep eating it. Your body is still weak, and I can still endure a bit longer." Nix took my hand and forced a biscuit into it. "Maeve, we promised to get through this together." I looked at her face. If it weren't for my previous life's experience, I would have actually believed her. "Well then, Nix, you rest quickly. I'll go boil some water and take some medicine after that." When the water boiled, I put 2 fever-reducing tablets into it, the exact same dosage as she gave me in my previous life, just enough to relieve the symptoms but not to cure them. I handed her the medicine. "Does Nix know that people tend to remove their clothes before freezing to death?" She trembled slightly while holding her water cup. "What does that mean?" I looked at Nix and smiled. "Not much. I just read online that many people become confused in the cold and actually feel hot, and apparently many people who freeze to death are found in disarray." Nix sighed. then looked at me in surprise. Oh, is that a thing? I've never heard of it before. I shook my head and stared at her for a while. Who knows, maybe those people were just making it up. But Nix, I noticed you look much better after going back home. Did you find something good there? She became unsettled. How is that possible? When I came here before, I took everything I could, and it took me a lot of effort to only find this much. Compressed biscuit, I think it's probably because of your medicine, she's quite good at pretending. I looked at the thermometer on the wall, and the outdoor temperature had dropped to minus 70 degrees. Nix, the temperature is already this low now, and we don't have much supplies left. What do you think we should do? She pretended to think for a moment. It's true that this isn't a solution. I think we should concentrate our resources on one person, and the other person should wear more clothes and go look for help. It seems her true nature is about to show. Nix, you're right. Since you said my medicine made you feel better, how about you go look for help? Upon hearing my words, she immediately became angry. Although it's a bit better, you're younger than me, and your physical condition is better suited for looking for help. The fox's tail has finally been exposed, but I still play along with her. But it's so cold outside, you'll get frozen to death. Her voice became a bit cold, but staying together will also lead to death. Let's take a chance. I can give you my jacket. Why don't you give me your thermal underwear? This time her face became completely panicked. What are you talking about? What thermal underwear? I slowly approached her and whispered, the instant noodles in the bedroom closet. She took a step back, her face pale. How do you know? I moved forward. I know more than you think. For example, I know you sent me out to let me die, and you wanted to take over my supplies. She continued to back away nervously, bumping into the coffee table. You're talking nonsense. I no longer pretended. I pulled out the shocker I had hidden in my boot and turned it on. You won't remember, but I remember clearly how you stripped me naked and threw me into the icy cold. Her eyes widened, and she finally realized I wasn't joking. She turned to run, but I was faster. The shocker pressed against her lower back. She screamed, convulsed, and fell to the ground. I didn't use maximum power, just made her temporarily unable to resist. I crouched down and looked into her terrified eyes. Nix, I've been thinking, if it had been you who was pushed out the door back then, how long would you have lasted? I took out the rope I had prepared in advance and started tying her hands and feet. She weakly struggled, muttering something incoherently. I spoke in a very gentle tone, just like the her from her previous life. Don't worry, I won't kill you now. I want you to experience everything I went through, just much longer. The freezing apocalypse has arrived, and Nix's nightmare is about to begin. I went to her house openly and brought back those instant noodles and compressed biscuits. Nix, thank you for the supplies. Nix looked terrifying. Maeve, how could you be so cruel? After arranging the supplies, I cooked a bowl of instant noodles in front of her. Vile, compared to you pushing me out to freeze to death, this isn't vile at all. Then she started begging me again. Maeve, you really misunderstood me. I never meant to harm you. Please give me a little bit. Okay. I shook my head and slowly enjoyed a bowl of noodles. Sis Nix, the braised flavor is a bit greasy, but thank you for preparing the noodles for me. She looked at me with resentment, and I could see her hands deeply embedded in her palms. I covered myself with all the blankets and tied her to the leg of the table, then slept soundly. Every day after that, I would give her a cup of hot cocoa to keep her alive, then take out various foods I had stockpiled and eat them in different ways. On the 13th day, when the temperature outside dropped to minus 75 degrees, she finally broke down. Maeve, please, kill me. I wiped the remaining hot pot dipping sauce from my lips and smiled at Nix, who was begging. Nix, I won't become a murderer like you, but since we've been neighbors for 8 years, I'll fulfill your wish. She was so weak she had no ability to resist. Just like in the previous life, I took away her warm clothes, dressed her in a red silk nightgown, and threw her house key down from the top floor. Nix, I believe with such a beautiful outfit, you will definitely find help. After saying that, I pushed her out of the door. 5. No, I give you freedom, and a chance to live. I held a cup of hot milk and walked to the balcony, standing by the window watching the fierce cold wind outside. A few minutes later, I saw Nix shivering violently as she came out of the building. Because of her weak body, she didn't walk a few steps before falling down and couldn't get up even after struggling for a long time. She crawled slowly towards her house key, and less than 3 minutes later, she stopped moving. I looked at her, now frozen like an ice sculpture, and took a photo with my phone, letting out a long sigh. Nix, it's your turn this time. The satisfaction of revenge lasted about half an hour, then a feeling of weakness and helplessness came over me. I thought I would be overjoyed watching her die, but now I just feel deep exhaustion. There's no time for me to indulge in melancholy. After all, the freezing apocalypse is not over yet. I have to try my best to survive. Thinking about this, I started to count all my supplies. The diesel generator and heater still have nearly 70% fuel, and the food supply is enough for a month, maybe a month and a half if I am careful. I can only hope that this apocalypse will end before my supplies run out, or that I can wait for official rescue that night. The power went out, my phone sometimes lost signal, and I could only receive intermittent information from the outside. A strong sense of unease kept me awake all night. A week later, to our surprise, although the power had not been restored, the phone signal was back to normal. After turning on the data, several messages in the owners group from 10 minutes ago made me break out in cold sweat. Professional math tutor Lucian sent a message. There are still people alive in Building 5, Unit 3, Room 1302. I also just saw that the house had light. My blood ran cold in an instant. They were talking about my home address. It was because I forgot to close the curtain when I turned on the light to heat the milk. Soon after, property manager Jude also replied, I remember that house was occupied by a single woman, and she has been able to withstand so long, which should mean she has a lot of supplies. Another one, Ori Fitness Fin Coach, also sent a message. Surely there were. I saw her house emitting white smoke yesterday. I thought it was because I was hungry and hallucinating, but now I think I didn't see it wrong. Without thinking about fear, I violently dismantled the dining table and used the 4 legs to reinforce the door, holding an electric baton in one hand and a baseball bat in the other. I was on high alert. Half an hour later, I heard some noise in the corridor. I opened the mobile phone monitoring app and placed the phone on the coffee table. In the monitoring screen, the property manager Old Ching appeared in front of my door with 2 men wrapped like mummies, holding tools such as an axe and a steel pipe. I held my breath, gripping the tools tightly, standing by the window of 6. Knock, knock, knock. The dull knocking sound rang. Then Jude's rough voice came through. Hurry up and open the door. 1302. I know you're in there. It's a critical time now. The whole community is just as few who are still alive. If you share your supplies with us, we promise not to hurt you. I didn't respond, and a burly man spoke up. You stupid woman, if you don't open the door, I'll use force. After saying that, he kicked the door hard a few times. I thought he must be Coach Finn, a man who wore glasses and was relatively short, had a fierce look in his eyes, and he directly used an axe to chop at the door. What's the point of talking? 3 men can't open a door. He had absolutely no dignity of a teacher. The door was starting to loosen under their violent actions, and I had to think of a way. Although I had a weapon and was somewhat of a tomboy, I still couldn't fight 3 men. In the panic, I saw the oil bottle on the kitchen counter, and an idea came to me. After putting the taser on my waist, I quietly went to the kitchen, took the oil bottle, and poured oil on the entrance hall, then scattered a bag of nails from the cabinet on top of it. I coated the walls on both sides of the door with a layer of cooking oil, and sprinkled the super strong tickle powder I had prepared for pranking my friends a long time ago. After finishing all this, I took my phone off the coffee table. Following the plan I had in mind, I opened the window on the balcony and went back to the master bedroom, because I had already moved all the important supplies to the master bedroom before they arrived. Since I had been discovered, I no longer concealed myself and directly turned on the diesel heater. There was a pot of water prepared on the door frame of the bedroom. Through the phone monitor, I saw that the door of my house was smashed open by the final attack of Lucian's fire axe. With a thunder sound, he rushed in first, stepped on the oil, and fell backward, his back of the head precisely hitting the thumbtacks I had sprinkled. Oh no, this bastard set a trap. His back of the head started to bleed, instantly staining the floor with blood, but it quickly coagulated. Save me, you two. Jude and Finn outside the door looked at each other in mutual confusion, exchanging a glance. Teacher Lucian, in this situation you won't survive anyway. Don't waste resources. I'll take revenge on you later. In the apocalyptic world, people's hearts are hard to fathom, and the evil side of human nature is magnified infinitely. Half an hour ago, the group was united, but now it has already begun to collapse. The 2 looked at the nails and cooking oil on the floor, and carefully held the wall to avoid the cooking oil on the ground. They took a step and both fell down at the same time, although they weren't stabbed in vital areas this time. They were still slightly injured by the nails. Damn it, you bitch. Today I'm not only going to take the supplies, but I'm also going to teach you a lesson. Brother, let's have some fun later and show this guy who's boss. After saying those harsh words, the 2 struggled for a long time before getting up. The footsteps reached the door of the master bedroom, and I tightened my grip on the taser, fully focused, waiting for the prey to enter. 3, 2, 1, bang. The door opened, and They came in, the pot of water on the doorframe accurately hit the two of them, and the cold wind from the balcony window blew in, making the two of them shiver. Damn it, I'm going to kill you today. Quick-eyed and quick-handed, I immediately sprinkled the itching powder on their faces, then struck with the electric baton. The two of them immediately collapsed, convulsing and unable to speak clearly. You, him, mother. I hit each of them once on the legs with a baseball bat. Shut up, do you really think I'm vegetarian? Sometimes the roles of hunter and prey aren't what you expect. They realized they couldn't move, and their threats and curses turned into howls of despair and pleas for mercy. Aunt, grandmother, we were wrong. Just let us be, as if we were nothing. Miss Maeve, I helped you fix the window before. Maybe you let me go and have him apologize. I was wearing a thick cotton coat, smiling happily as I watched the two of them. 7. Why aren't you going to take revenge on Lucian teacher? Where is the 3-person team? Without waiting for their response, I taped their mouths shut. They were too noisy. I dragged them one by one to the living room, threw them in the balcony area, and a cold wind made me shiver. After finishing, I quickly went back to the bedroom, locked the door, filled the door gap with sealing tape, and increased the power of the whole house heater. After a few minutes, I felt less cold. In the phone monitoring app, the two of them had completely fainted from the cold, and the water poured on them had turned into a thin layer of ice. After confirming that the 3 of them were dead, I went up from the bedroom and closed the balcony window. I moved them to the stairwell, took out a large white bedsheet from the house, covered them, and then started dealing with the damaged front door. After thinking for a long time, I finally had to take the door from the secondary bedroom and install it on the front door. Fortunately, the doors in this community were mostly the same size at that time, and although they were wooden doors, they could still be used. When I returned to the bedroom, my heart was not calm at all. I am a tomboy, but I never thought one day I would become a murderer, even if it was just self-defense, to survive. The 3 of them were different from Nyx. We had no grudge or enmity before today. I pulled all the curtains, and the roaring of the diesel generator and the heater kept me company through the long night. The next day, I had already adjusted my mindset. After all, I still have to keep living. On the 25th day, my phone suddenly received a message. All survivors in this city are requested to go to the West Suburbs Stadium within 5 days. We have built a temporary shelter with basic heating equipment and food. The shelter will be completely closed after 5 days. I hesitated. From my home to the West Suburbs shelter is a 20-kilometer journey, which is not a big deal under normal circumstances, but in the current extreme cold of over 70 degrees below zero, this 20-kilometer journey to save myself is hardly different from a suicide trip. However, if I don't go, the supplies I have will only last 10 more days, and I'm not sure if there are other survivors coming out to loot. The most important point is that the shelter will be completely closed after 5 days. If I don't go, I will completely lose this opportunity. Eventually, I still decided to wait until the last day to leave, because at that time it would be relatively safe, or perhaps some other miracle might happen during this period, but I still didn't wait for the miracle to happen, so I started packing my things the day before the shelter closed. I planned to start heading to the shelter tomorrow. I spent the whole day preparing my things. Chocolate, cocoa powder, 2 large thermos bottles filled with hot water, and compressed biscuits were put into a backpack. I nodded. I only took these space-saving and high-calorie foods. It's not only for reducing weight, but more importantly, they are enough for me to survive until I reach the shelter. If I exceed this time, even if I have enough food, the final result will still be death. An electric baton and a fruit knife were attached to my waist, covered by a down jacket, and the pockets of the down jacket contained itching powder and pepper powder. These are all life-saving items, and I must take them. I took out some old ski equipment from the storage cabinet and a skateboard that I originally bought for a colleague's son. Finally, I drew the map and mapped out the route forward, and that was all prepared. After doing all of that, I had a delicious and abundant dinner, and turned the heater to maximum. These things can't be taken away, so let them serve their maximum purpose. Let me rest and regain my energy for a good sleep. The next morning early, I put on my gear and left this place where I had lived for 8 years. When I passed by Nyx's body, I looked at her for a moment, then I set off without looking back. Indeed, I didn't see any living people along the way, but I encountered many human-shaped ice sculptures. The journey was relatively smooth, although it was very cold. I had warming plasters on my body, and I could still endure. I smiled. By noon, I found a store with a broken door and went in to rest. One is to confirm the route again, and the other is that I need to regain my strength. I took out the cocoa powder from the bag and poured it into the thermos, finishing lunch with the compressed biscuits, and I felt a bit warmer. I took out the map and looked at it, and with the skateboard I had already covered half the distance, estimating that I could reach the destination before dark. I didn't rest for long. Taking advantage of the warmth in my body, I set off again on the skateboard. At 7 o'clock in the evening, I could already vaguely see the outline of the stadium building. I estimated that I still had about 3 kilometers left before I could reach my destination. At this moment, a girl's voice came from the roadside. "Sister, please save me." I followed the sound and saw a girl in a pink down jacket huddled under a bridge pier, looking no more than 20 years old. Her bare hands had turned a terrible purplish color, and an empty backpack was lying beside her. All my nerves were tense, preparing to move forward, because experiential lessons have told me that in the apocalypse, you can't be a saint. I had just started, when the girl suddenly rushed over and hugged my leg. "Sister, please take me with you." I was pulled and couldn't move forward. Instinctively my hands had already reached for the weapon at my waist, but as I just took out the electric button, a shadow suddenly rushed out from the side holding a steel pipe. "Hey, it seems you're a cautious and ruthless woman." I started to back away, but the girl pulled me down with all her strength. "Put down your weapon. We just want supplies, not your life. Put down your backpack and your clothes, and we'll let you go." I quickly nodded. "Okay, I agree to you." Saying that, he threw away the stun baton and sat up, pretending to untie his backpack strap. With one hand, he secretly put his hand in his pocket and felt the pepper powder and itching powder, then turned his back and sprinkled them towards the girl. The girl started coughing violently, and her companion reacted quickly, dropping the steel pipe on my shoulder. "You don't want to take the wine, then you have to take the punishment, if that's the case. Don't blame me for being ruthless." Seeing the steel pipe coming down again, I had no strength left to fight back. I closed my eyes and waited for the final moment to arrive. 5 seconds later, the steel pipe still didn't fall. Instead, I heard a "ah," and opened my eyes. The man who attacked me had already fallen to the ground, and next to him was a man wearing an old military coat. "Miss, are you okay?" In the winter where the temperature is below -70 degrees, his voice was like a warm stove. At this moment, I nodded awkwardly, then he tightened his military coat. "If there's nothing else, I'll take you to the shelter." I suddenly became alert. Maybe he wasn't a good person after all. "No, I can walk by myself." He sighed helplessly, took 2 steps back, then took out an officer's certificate from his pocket and threw it to me. "This is my certificate. My name is Archer. I am an active duty soldier. Today I received a task to search and rescue within 3 kilometers of the shelter. Now you can be at ease." I hesitantly opened the officer's certificate and double-checked it before nodding. "Sorry, he waved his hand. "I understand. Can I leave now?" I awkwardly replied yes, then picked up my dropped backpack and taser 9. He took out a rope and tied the 2 criminals' hands, dragging them along with me towards the shelter. After an hour, I finally arrived safely at the shelter. Archer handed me over to a staff member. "Miss, she will take care of you for now. I need to hand these 2 scums over to the law enforcement, but if you have anything to do here, you can find me. I live in room 108 of Area A." I nodded silently and followed the staff member. "Room 111 of Area B is my new residence." The staff member told me that the canteen is offering free warming ginger soup. After drinking the ginger soup, I hesitated for a while and took a piece of chocolate to the door of room 108 in Area A and knocked on the door. "Please have some chocolate." He was stunned for a moment, then smiled. I also smiled. "The shelter is warmer than I imagined." Story 2. A meteor shower brought about the apocalypse. The good news is, I have awakened a spatial supernatural ability. The bad news is, the time flow in my space is accelerated by 10,000 times. The eggs from this morning turned ancient by the Qing dynasty, and last week's rice dates back to the Western Zhou dynasty. I threw some zombies into it. The next day, the zombies had turned into a pile of bones. I dumped the bones under the apartment building to free up space. With a level 1 supernatural ability, my space is only 2 cubic meters. It's a tight squeeze, but I can fit about 7 or 8 zombies. However, the living area per zombie is too small, and their happiness is not very high, but it doesn't matter. Their lifetime passes very quickly in order to go out and find supplies. I started clearing the zombies around. The streets were crowded with zombies, and nobody was there to lend a hand. Working in shifts around the clock, I barely managed to clear 30 zombies a day. After several days of non-stop work, the neighborhood exploded. "Who the hell dumped a pile of bodies downstairs? Have you no decency?" "No, I don't." I glanced at the complainer's door number, B250. "Good. From now on I will specifically dump them at your doorstep." Dealing with people is always harder than dealing with bodies, but I'm different. I can handle both well. After stacking the corpses high enough to bury B250's windowsill. I advanced to a level 2 supernatural ability. My space doubled, now fitting 15 zombies. Thus, I became even more efficient at killing zombies. Making my way out of the neighborhood to the supermarket, most of the goods in the supermarket were already looted. I hurried to grab what was left: biscuits, instant noodles, chili sauce, and stuffed them all into my backpack. Carrying the load back and forth exhausted me, and I collapsed into a deep sleep on my bed. When I woke up, it was already dark. I heard the sound of car engines from downstairs. Looking out the window, I saw many people returning in their cars, unloading bags of rice and oil from their trunks, all excited and smug. A few days ago, when I was out killing zombies, they were all hiding at home. Now that the zombies are cleared, they swarm out to snatch up supplies. The supermarket must be empty by now. I took a loaf of bread from my backpack, opened the unscrupulous map on my phone, and while eating, I looked for the next suitable supply point. The next supermarket was quite far. The disadvantage of not being able to drive was fully apparent now. I planned my route, and the next morning, I smeared myself with zombie blood and left the house calmly. A few more zombies wandered into the neighborhood, drawn by the smell on me, thinking I was one of them due to the stench. They felt the warmth of my body. I mercilessly stabbed them in the back. After cleaning up, the neighborhood was much tidier. I locked the main gate of the neighborhood with a chain to prevent zombies from slipping in and causing more trouble. Leaving the neighborhood, I stole an electric scooter, turned the key, and sped away. Behind me, I heard an incredulous voice. "It's crazy." It looked like a zombie riding an electric scooter. Dawn was breaking. The neighborhood group chat came to life. B250 was ranting again. "Who locked the main gate? How selfish can you be? Do you think the whole neighborhood belongs to just you? Others can't go out to find supplies, but you can?" Some people sided with me, trying to calm things down with kind words, but they were too polite, never insulting the other party, and left with regrets. Although I'm not as polite, I was busy with a free shopping spree and missed the peak of the showdown. When I got home and was checking my spoils, I suddenly heard a scream from downstairs. Looking out, I saw a zombie had entered our area and bitten a man, his intestines spilling out. Several people nearby screamed in terror, attracting more zombies. Well, I did say we should have locked the gate. I opened WeChat and messaged B250, "Hello, are you the one who died?" No response. I don't know if it's because they're dead, or because the power suddenly went out. Looking at the long unused clothes rack, no, the exercise bike, I had an idea and strapped a zombie onto it. The zombie pedaled aimlessly, generating electricity slowly. At this rate, fast charging my phone was a waste. Unhappy with its work ethic, I grabbed a belt and gave it a lash. The zombie, unfazed by pain, continued to slack off. Inspired again, I went downstairs, strolled around the corpses, and carefully picked a piece of fresh intestine from one that hadn't turned yet, dangling it in front of the zombie. The zombie went crazy, pedaling with all its might, turning the pedals like turbo wheels. My phone charged quickly. The zombie kept pedaling energetically, but I was annoyed by the noise. So I pulled out a kitchen knife and stabbed it in the heart. It didn't die. Oh, right. Dead people don't have heartbeats. I punched it. I unleashed all my skills on it, slashing, drowning, burning, electrocuting. Finally, the zombie kicked its legs out and left this beautiful world. A crystal fell out of its brain. I pondered. I recalled the zombie bones I had lost days ago. Their skulls were empty, right? Then I thought about the space I had doubled. It turns out you absorbed it. I tossed the crystal in my hand, gradually understanding everything. This thing, it's a new energy source. Just as I began to fantasize about the Nobel Prize, my stomach suddenly growled. With things as they were, I decided to eat first. The gas wasn't cut off yet, so I busied myself in the kitchen and soon had a pot of extra stinky and spicy snail noodle soup ready. The rich aroma spread, tantalizing. Holding the pot, I slurped the noodles contentedly, blissfully, when suddenly I heard urgent knocking. My neighbor cried out in anguish, "Don't eat it, don't eat it, better to starve than to cook and eat shit." "I'm not eating shit," I explained feebly through the peephole. They didn't believe me. "If it's not shit and it still smells that bad, it's almost as bad as the pile of corpses downstairs. You wouldn't be keeping a zombie in your house, would you? Playing such a twisted game." He was just joking initially, but I fell silent. He started to stammer, "You're really nurturing. Are they your family? I'm so sorry. It's my loose mouth. You must have your reasons." He rambled on incoherently for a while, then slapped himself, exclaiming, "I really deserve to die." Seeing his guilt, I swallowed back the words I hadn't yet spoken. "I wasn't messing with you. It's none of your business." He scratched his head, trying to make amends. "I heard that the neighboring province is planning to set up a survivor base. I've joined a squad. Do you want to come along?" After taking a shower, tidying up my home, and fighting off zombies along the way, I arrived at the meeting point. The neighbor mentioned. The deputy leader, Vance, looked at me casually. A woman, huh? Do you have any special abilities? I have spatial abilities. How big? For cubic meters. Damn, how come it's larger than mine? He seemed annoyed and casually pointed to a few bags of rice on the ground. Then take this with you. I can't. Time moves faster in my space. 1 day equals over 20 years. Vance sneered. What good is that then? Toilet paper would rot in there. My space stops time. I can store food indefinitely, which is far more useful than your thing. He was smug. I clapped. Oh, that powerful. Bet my 50 bags of instant noodles on it. Let's see your strength. Vance immediately became defensive. Why should I? I smirked. If you're not strong, then shut up. Vance rolled up his sleeves, ready to fight. Just as the tense atmosphere peaked, the captain appeared. The captain was a well-composed man with a gentle demeanor. Rainy. Right, welcome aboard. Would you like to be in charge of gathering supplies, or doing odd jobs? I'll gather supplies. Okay, Asher said. Vance started complaining. With those skinny arms and legs, can you even fight off zombies? Don't slow us down, I replied. Consider your own issues. Am I really dragging you down, or are you unable to keep up with me? We drove to a massive supermarket. The captain advised us to keep a low profile to avoid attracting the zombies' attention, so we stealthily sneaked in, crouching low. As soon as we entered, we bumped into a zombie. Great, we successfully grabbed the zombie's attention. Vance and the zombie stared each other down before he grabbed an iron bar and charged. The zombie's head burst open from the blow. As one zombie fell, 2 more approached. Vance fearlessly swung his iron bar with great force. I wasn't interested in him. I turned to watch Asher, who was attacking from the side. I heard he had lightning powers. Could it be the thunderbolt that shakes the heavens? I was eager to see. Just then, a spark of electricity flashed from Asher's fingertips, accompanied by a bright white light, and swiftly struck the zombie. It singed his clothes. I remarked, "Your lightning, apart from everything else, sure is flashy." Asher tightened his face. I missed aiming for the head last time. Let's go again. But as Vance grappled with the 2 zombies, to avoid friendly fire, it was quite challenging to aim. Asher could only keep to the fringes, dodging left and right, his movements crackling like sparklers. I couldn't help but say, "Are you cheering up the zombies?" Asher grew agitated, and Vance was also running out of stamina. As 2 zombies lunged at Vance simultaneously, I shouted urgently, "Dodge quickly." Vance rolled away on the spot, escaping the immediate danger. I scooped up a ladle of water from my space and splashed it on the zombies, then urged Asher, "Lightning King, you've been powered up. Go for it. Ever seen electrofishing?" The bright white lightning hitting the water immobilized the zombies like fish on the verge of death, thrashing briefly before losing their ability to move. Asher stroked his chin. Could it be that the zombies are also controlled by bioelectricity? I was speechless. Stop theorizing. Your most important task right now is the upgrade. Grab the big bags. Hurry up. We quickly descended the building, raided the underground supermarket, each of us carrying 2 large bags of supplies, ready to head back. Unfortunately, we ran into a large group of zombies. Vance, quick as ever, splashed water from his space, and Asher followed up with lightning. The 2 coordinated seamlessly, forming a solid defensive line with a trail of water, successfully blocking the zombies. We carefully retreated, only to find another group of zombies encircling us from behind. The duo repeated their tactic, forming another defensive line at the rear, caught between. It was like being in fortress besieged. Those inside wanted out, and the zombies outside wanted in. The electrified zombies started tap dancing in rage, howling angrily, attracting even more zombies in relentless waves. But the power of the waterbound lightning was fading. Vance looked grim, pulling out an iron rod. "My powers are almost depleted. I'll clear the way. You 2 find the right moment to break out." Asher, pale and shaky, pulled a kitchen knife from his backpack, gritting his teeth and shielding me. The jumping lightning went out, leaving only a pool of still water. The zombies rushed straight at us, their rotting fingers nearly piercing Asher's mouth. I unfastened my belt. "Follow me," I shouted, then gripped my belt tightly and swung it fiercely. Wherever the belt struck, zombies vanished on the spot. I charged forward, sweeping aside all obstacles, leading them out of the encirclement. We hurried into the car, floored the accelerator, and quickly left the pursuing zombies behind. Vance was so excited he was practically steaming. "Holy shit. Sis, you're incredible." "Thanks, I'm a woman, no bro here." "That's because you're freaking awesome." We drove to the outskirts and met up with 2 other teammates. One was the neighbor who had recruited me, and the other was a burly man as solid as a rock refrigerator. They introduced themselves. I won't mention their names since I didn't remember them. Asher looked at me with an unimpressed expression and repeated, "My name is Asher." I glanced at his serious face and nodded. "Got it." Asher brightened up immediately. Our group of 5 gathered around in Old map, studying it for a long time before deciding on the route to the neighboring province's base. The future looked bright, but the road was full of twists and turns. Just a few kilometers out, our way was blocked by the car ahead. If you can't drive, don't, I muttered angrily as I dragged the zombie driver out and took over his car. After driving another dozen kilometers, we encountered a group of zombies queuing to cross the road. We wiped them out and then went on to extract their brain nuclei, leaving brain matter scattered all around. My neighbor chuckled stiffly. I thought you playing with zombies at home was twisted enough, but this is another level. How did you even think of doing this? Did the sight of zombies suddenly make you crave monkey brains? While my neighbor aimlessly stirred the zombie brain matter, he failed to notice a zombie slowly approaching from behind. Just as putrid drool was about to drip onto his head, I willed the zombie to disappear. Third level. Spatial ability, telekinesis, really comes in handy. No more sudden belt unfastening on the thrilling battlefield. After driving hundreds of kilometers, our supplies were down to a mere half. Asher was conflicted. 5 people, for packs of instant noodles. How should we split them? I thought to myself, why not just cook it all in one pot? When suddenly a sinister voice whispered from behind, why not just kill one? As the words fell, a water sphere appeared out of nowhere and enveloped Asher's head. Through the irregularly flowing water, his usually composed face appeared grotesquely distorted. Asher struggled to breathe, choking on water, his face filled with panic as the water sphere firmly locked around him. A man and a woman strolled up to us leisurely. The man controlled the water flow with ease, smiling contentedly. Want him to live? Give us your supplies. I covertly tried to manipulate my thoughts to retract the water. It failed. The water sphere and Asher were inextricably linked, making them inseparable. Asher also dared not use his electrical powers. Vance, seeing we were outmatched, gritted his teeth and threw over the 4 packs of noodles. The woman clumsily caught them, clutching them to her chest. The man smirked. Not enough. Is that all your companion's life is worth? Vance, eyes reddened. Threw the rest of our supplies over. The woman fumbled to pick them up, holding them tightly. Finally satisfied, the man smiled. Enough. His expression suddenly turned sinister as more water spheres appeared, one by one enveloping Vance, the neighbor, and Rock. You can all go die now. My teammates struggled in their last moments, eyes bulging as they were deprived of air. It was almost my turn. The man was drenched from head to toe. You too. Are you also a water-based ability user? I didn't respond. Water from my spatial ability continuously poured out, enveloping him like a water-based ability. The water was mixed with zombie flesh, pus, eyeballs, and brain matter, the stench overwhelmingly foul. The man vomited and struggled, too weak to focus on controlling his ability. The uncontrolled water spheres burst and splashed. My teammates escaped, gasping for fresh air. Meanwhile, the man was trapped in the water, his struggles growing weaker. The woman looked helpless and anxious, setting down the food she had gathered on the ground, pleading with tears in her eyes. She said, "Please let him go. We'll give you back the items. Just please spare him." I was perplexed. You should return them anyway. Seeing her tears, I felt a hint of pity. I stroked my chin. How about you hand over your food, and I'll consider releasing him. As if granted a pardon, the woman quickly ran to their car and brought back a heap of food, presenting it to me as if it were treasure. They had quite a stash: cream-filled bread, canned meat, Orleans chicken leg sandwiches, self-heating chicken rice, and even Coca-Cola. I was genuinely amazed. Suddenly, a flash of cold light struck at me. Instinctively, I retreated into my space. The woman disappeared. I cursed under my breath. Where was my large bottle of Coca-Cola? I immediately focused my consciousness into the space, frantically searching through the food, losing interest in maintaining control over the water. The man finally freed himself, covered in grime. He collapsed on the ground, gasping for air, and belatedly asked, "Where's my wife?" I pulled the woman out from the space and dropped her on him. She's dead. A minute in my spaces equivalent to 7 days in reality. She had long died of thirst. The man, in disbelief, said, "She was just alive. How could she be gone in the blink of an eye?" "No, my wife. You'll always be my sweet." He embraced the body, sobbing bitterly. "If it weren't for trying to save me," I tried to console him. "Actually, saving me wasn't necessary. I was almost out of my water-based powers." His crying grew louder. Such a tough one to console. While comforting him, I and my team drove away with his vehicle loaded with supplies, leaving them in the dust. Vance opened one of the sandwiches and sniffed it. "After so many days into the apocalypse, it's still fresh." I casually mentioned that woman had spatial powers. After absorbing her, my space leveled up to tier 4. We were quite lucky on the road. Every time we ran out of food, we stumbled upon good Samaritans eager to provide supplies, scoring several new vehicles, more profitable than online selling. Upon reaching the base, we were assigned to a dormitory with 3 bunk beds, well, half a lifetime after graduation, and here we are back in a room for 6 after killing zombies and returning to the dorm. It felt like my life was over, the dorm manager explained. Everything in the base must be exchanged for points. A simple meal in the cafeteria costs 1 point, a bucket of hot water 1 point, and medications 3 points. In the end, even in the apocalypse, one has to work. A single zombie earns you 1 point. Those who made it to the base had killed many zombies, earning enough points for several good meals. However, exchanging points required proof, and who would be mad enough to carry around zombie corpses? Except for me. I excitedly approached the exchange counter and opened my space, letting zombie bodies fall out like dumplings. The staff member was stunned, his expression slowly fading. Actually, we just need the heads, not the bodies. I generously replied, buy 1, get 1 free, no thanks needed, it's all yours. I earned 107 points. With a grand gesture, I led my team to the cafeteria for a hearty meal. Our meal was a simple stir-fried cabbage with rice. I splurged and added a large plate of green beans with roasted pork and a big pot of seaweed tofu soup. The dishes were oily, steaming hot, and deliciously fragrant. We ate until our bellies were round and we were completely satisfied. That night, each of us enjoyed 2 buckets of hot water for a thoroughly enjoyable bath. After 3 cozy days, our troubles seemed to have vanished, and we began to work. Who could possibly defeat me? With my level 4 special abilities, I could take down over 100 zombies single-handedly. In the world of Water Margin, not even the heroes of Liangshan would dare to challenge me. In Journey to the West, even the Monkey King would seek my help. Oh heaven, you're truly not on my side, sending me into the era of the 3 kingdoms. Behind us was a dark wave of zombies, probably as vast as an army of 100,000. They were fiercely chasing us, snapping at our heels. I ran until I was nearly out of breath. The zombies were faster, with their dead hands reaching for my backside. Vance and Rock swung their iron rods, clearing the zombies and fiercely protecting me. Asher and a neighbor, one on each side, dragged me, breathless as a dying dog. After a desperate 800-meter sprint, we finally made it to the base. But who in the world closed the main gate of the base? From the towering walls, several ropes were thrown down. Our fellow runners, without a moment's hesitation, grabbed the ropes and quickly started climbing. What, have you guys been secretly training for a triathlon without me? After running 800 meters, my legs were as soft as noodles. Just when I felt utterly helpless, Asher lifted me up and with great effort, pulled me up. Then he grabbed a rope and climbed up swiftly. The zombie horde reached the base of the wall and began to violently shake the ropes. Many people fell while they were halfway up. Asher, with gritted teeth and veins bulging on his arms, clung tightly to the rope, climbing up step by step. Finally, he made it to the top and collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. Then, someone pushed him off. Asher, incredulous, widened his eyes as he fell straight into a group of zombies. The zombies excitedly pounced on him. I immediately used my spatial abilities. But the zombies kept coming, endlessly. I was completely caught off guard and watched helplessly as Asher was overwhelmed by the wave of zombies. My eyes were filled with fury. Asher, from beneath the layers of zombies, Asher's voice, filled with pain, came through. My name is Asher, damn it. Suddenly, a bright burst of lightning erupted, and dozens of zombies on him were blown away. He leaped up and quickly climbed the rope. The neighbor, lying on the edge of the wall, vigorously pulled him up. TCH. A man indifferently curled his lip. He was the one who had pushed Asher, now being firmly held down by Rock and Vance. Asher, breathing heavily, reappeared on top of the wall. We all breathed a huge sigh of relief. The man looked at him, then suddenly grinned. You've been bitten by a zombie. We were stunned. From Asher's exposed wound, the blood that flowed was turning black. His pale skin began to darken. A chord in my mind suddenly snapped. The man laughed triumphantly. He's been bitten by a zombie. Are you not going to throw him down? Do you really want to watch him slowly turn into a zombie before you pretend to sob and kill him in grief? I was just teasing you guys. My wife has healing powers. She could have saved him. Too bad you killed her. We had space, water, and healing abilities. We could have survived until the end of the apocalypse. But she was killed by you. I want you to remember forever that you killed your own savior. No one can save you. Just wait for death. Ha ha ha. Vance's eyes were bloodshot. Shut up, Asher blankly stared at the black blood on his arm, looked up at us quietly, and then glanced at the wall he had desperately climbed over. He turned and walked toward the wall. I grabbed his arm. In that moment, everything in the world before my eyes suddenly became crystal clear. Every inch of skin, every stream of blood, every nerve. The ordinary wound on his arm, tainted with zombie saliva, was as visible as ink in clear water. My mind focused, and I extracted the contaminated blood. His blood turned bright red again. His skin regained its pale fairness. The man stopped laughing, incredulous. Aren't you a water-based power user? How come you have healing abilities? Oh, maybe because my powers have reached level 5. I looked back at the man, scratching my head. Sorry, who are you again? I've killed so many people along the way, I really can't remember. And who is your wife? The man spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground, motionless. The smell of blood spread. The zombies under the wall became even more agitated. They frantically shook the ropes, causing people still climbing the wall to fall and be torn apart amid screams. Even after eating the people, the zombies refused to leave and began fiercely slamming into the wall. Rock looked serious and worried. I wonder if the base's wall is just shoddy construction. Asher, having lost a lot of blood, had pale lips but continued to direct from the front, try to kill as many zombies as possible. Keep them away from the wall. Vance silently took out several buckets of water. Coordinating with Asher, this tactic worked very well against 3 or 5 zombies, but against a horde, it was like a drop in the bucket. I looked towards the distant river, a flash of inspiration. Previously, without a bucket, I couldn't store a liter of water directly into space, but at level 5, I could. With a thought, suddenly, a gap appeared in midair, and a torrent of water gushed out, as if the waters of the Yellow River descended from the heavens. The endless water soaked every inch of ground where the zombies stood. Asher immediately turned into Thor, starting to generate electricity. Bright white lightning exploded in the water, instantly knocking down a swath of zombies. The others on the city wall, seeing this, took the opportunity to counterattack. Suddenly, the wind howled, flames burned fiercely, and earth spikes erupted from the ground. Watching the scene, my blood boiled, and with another thought, a nearby hill suddenly became bare, and several huge rocks fell from the sky, smashing down dozens of zombies. I repeated my trick, hurling a huge rock high into the air, and then smashing it down again. Rock looked at me admiringly. You truly are a chosen one, destined to fight the apocalypse, born to be a civil engineer. When the base commander arrived, a zombie horde capable of destroying the base had already been quietly eradicated. The entrance of the base was blocked with piles of zombie corpses, which I cleared away with a grand gesture, stacking them together. The countless zombie bodies formed our second wall of defense. The base commander, shocked by the scene, immediately declared that everyone had played a significant role in repelling the zombie horde and deserved commendation. However, in these apocalyptic times, there weren't exactly prizes to give away. Generously, the commander announced that each person would be rewarded with a luxurious single dormitory and 1,000 points. My eyes lit up. Eating dry biscuits every day was getting so old. I longed for the soft, sticky rice, glistening roast meat, and sweet vegetables from the cafeteria. I heard they recently introduced spicy beef brisket pot and hot pot chicken, not to mention homemade cola and ice cream. My mouth was watering. With these 1,000 points, I could eat deliciously every day. Commander, a young soldier in military uniform, leapt onto the city wall like a rabbit, panting. Our water supply has been contaminated by zombies. The land, crops, and plants are all infected with the virus. The base commander's expression darkened. The water can be purified, but the soil can't, and the crops that have grown must be discarded. The remaining food reserves at the base are not enough to sustain so many people. No more food, someone suggested. The land here is contaminated. We could bring some soil from elsewhere. Others chimed in. There are vegetable gardens nearby. Let's form a team and harvest them. The base commander shook his head gravely. That meteor shower brought viruses, supernatural abilities, and radioactive energy. Many lands and water sources have been contaminated and can't be used for drinking or planting. To restore them, it would take at least 10 or 20 years. I raised my hand, Ultraman style. I have a solution. I became a humanoid water purifier after several experiments. The water and soil stored in my space could metabolize all viruses and radioactive energy within 24 hours. The young soldier, upon receiving the test results, turned red with excitement, jumping 3 feet high like a rabbit. Great, we're saved. Our base's tens of thousands won't starve. The base commander, also thrilled, shook my hand. Comrade Rainey, having such a talent at the base is truly a fortune. The onlookers began to applaud enthusiastically. Vance bounced around in the crowd, showing off. See that? That's my sister. She's awesome, someone skeptically remarked. The plants in the land you purified are all dead. Where are we going to find ready to eat food now? Aren't we still going to starve? The initially excited crowd gradually calmed down. I countered. Do you have a solution? The person puffed out his chest. I have wood-based abilities. I can accelerate ripening. Several others with wood-based abilities also responded and stood up. Earlier, when rewards were being given, those with destructive abilities like wind, thunder, fire, and water were commended. Even Vance and I, with our supportive spatial abilities, had shown Great merit, only those with wood-based abilities had not been able to contribute, and they were quite resentful. Understanding this, I stepped aside and said, "If you can do it, go ahead." Several confident wood-based ability users stepped forward, rubbing their hands together, and released their abilities towards a seed. I saw a seed swiftly take root, sprout, bloom, and bear fruit, turning into a large eggplant in mere moments. Then, he rapidly ripened cabbages, wheat, watermelons, tomatoes, after accelerating the growth of 5 seeds. The wood-based superpower user stopped, pale-faced, and proudly lifted his head. "How about that?" I applauded. "Amazing. Your power drained just by speeding up 5 seeds. When will tens of thousands of us get to eat?" The wood-based superpower user's face turned red. "If you think you can do better, go ahead." So I did. A young man in military garb huffed and puffed as he helped me scatter the seeds across the experimental field. I stood aside, focusing my mind. A large area of the experimental field vanished. At the same time, the water level in the purification pool dropped rapidly. About 15 minutes later, a lush piece of land reappeared in our sight. It was covered with fields of golden wheat, purplish-red eggplants, green spinach, and plump watermelons. The onlooking crowd gasped, then burst into cheers. The wood-based superpower user was dumbstruck. I calmly said, "At least this level of efficiency is needed." 16. The food crisis was resolved. We found ourselves with 1,000 credits and began a life of extravagant spending. One day, after finishing an expensive hamburger and cola combo, Asher mysteriously pulled me aside to show me a trick. He took out a dry piece of wood and struck it with a bolt of lightning, causing it to smoke and ignite a small flame. Asher excitedly announced, "I've developed a fire-based superpower." I watched him speechlessly. "Congratulations, you've taken a small personal step forward, and humanity several thousand years back." Asher scratched his head, then pulled out a piece of oil-soaked paper and ignited it with lightning. "And this, it's even more efficient for starting fires." He looked at us expectantly, and neighbor exaggeratedly exclaimed, "Wow, that'll make starting fires in the wild much easier." Vance quietly pocketed his lighter. Rock whispered to me, "Your space, if filled with earth, it's earth-based, with water, it's water-based, it can even be wood-based and healing-based, it's just too powerful. Even the boss feels inferior and wants to try harder." I nodded, looking into Asher's bright eyes, and finally managed to say, "Why don't you try electrolyzing water? It could also generate some hydrogen and oxygen." Asher's eyes lit up, and he immediately dragged Vance off to experiment. A young man in military garb ran up, panting, "Sister Lien, the northern base has also encountered a zombie wave, and the base was destroyed. Some academicians in biology were escorted to our base. It's about a 10-day journey, and the base commander wants you to go pick them up." I nodded, taking the map to study. My teammates immediately gathered around, advising worriedly, "It's a long trip, be safe, and take plenty of food. Here, take some of my chips." I gladly accepted Vance's snack, devouring a large portion with satisfaction, then wiped my mouth. "I'm off." My teammates waved goodbye reluctantly. 5 minutes later, I reappeared at the same spot with the convoy teammate. I chuckled. "I recently discovered that with this space superpower, I can teleport." Asher, 17. After the academics joined, they immediately began developing a vaccine for the zombie virus. The research institute was designated a top-level security zone. The base commander patted my shoulder. "Comrade Rainey, as the strongest superpower user in the base, the safety of the research institute is in your hands. Humanity isn't united. Some factions believe humans should be destroyed by zombies. Make sure none of their spies infiltrate the research institute. Wear this uniform, and even if a general comes, he needs your approval to enter." I solemnly accepted the new uniform, committed to not letting the base commander down, becoming a proud security guard. The base transported zombie corpses to the research facility daily for the researchers to study. Dr. Barnes, who hadn't graduated in 7 years, was in charge of receiving the bodies. I was assisting on the side when suddenly, a frown creased my brow. I discovered that among the bodies, there was a living person mixed in. Upon closer inspection, I realized this was no ordinary person. He was a zombie on the verge of mutating. What a situation. It seemed they intended to wipe us all out in one fell swoop. I arrested him on the spot. The person disguised as a zombie was completely baffled and tried to explain in a flustered manner, I'm not a spy. I've been infected with the virus and I'm about to die. I heard that live dissections are most useful for research, so I thought, since my life is worthless anyway, if it could help develop a vaccine, then at least I would have been of some use. As the cosplayer began to weep bitterly, his face started to turn pale green, and his expression grew increasingly grotesque. I sighed, took a good look at him, and began to meticulously extract the virus from his blood. Little by little, the cosplayer groaned in confusion as the mutation stopped. Dr. Barnes asked in amazement, "What did you do?" I replied, "I extracted the zombie virus." Dr. Barnes looked puzzled and asked, "You can extract the zombie virus." I had become a human form of a separation machine. Due to the lack of scientific equipment, vaccine research was extremely challenging, and even extracting the zombie virus was difficult, but I could do it. Under the intense gaze of the academicians, I skillfully used my powers to extract the virus from the zombie's blood. The academicians were utterly shocked and their expressions complex. Can abilities really achieve this in this apocalypse? Is there's still a place for human technology. With my help, the academicians made rapid progress in their research. My abilities also advanced rapidly, reaching level 7, capable of compressing space. Dr. Barnes enthusiastically taught me a lot about the qualitative changes that occur when water is pressurized, which was quite overwhelming for me. One day, Asher met me in the cafeteria and came over excitedly to share his results on hydrogen production using his thunder-related abilities. I was having a lively discussion with Dr. Barnes about G proteins and chimeric vectors, while casually compressing water into metallic hydrogen. Asher walked away disheartened. Finally, under the precise calculations of the academicians and my accurate operations, we removed the protein shell of the zombie virus and transplanted the virus's DNA into the cells of mammalian animals, thus developing a safe and effective vaccine. After the infected were vaccinated, their mutations stopped, and they gradually regained consciousness. The research was a success. The entire research institute erupted into excitement. After several confirmations, we gathered everyone in the central square of the base and announced this achievement. The crowd burst into tears of joy, with cheers, screams, and applause filling the air. The base leader, holding a microphone, said excitedly, "Thank you everyone for your hard work and determination, which has brought an end to this apocalypse. Special thanks to Comrade Rainey, who has helped our base overcome numerous challenges, whether it be resisting zombie waves, solving food crises, or assisting in vaccine development. Comrade Rainey has used her wisdom to help us time and again. Now, please welcome Comrade Rainey to the stage to speak." I was prepared and began my speech with a smile. In this apocalyptic world, where biological mutations and environmental pollution abound, and new energy materials emerge, all challenge our existing technology. As we all know, in the 21st century, the most important direction for development, the most promising field, is bioenvironmental materials. I welcome everyone to apply. The audience erupted in applause as the academicians showed their appreciation. Dr. Barnes held my flyer advertising important representative speeches, advertisement spaces for rent, and smiled without saying a word. The square was filled with laughter and cheerful voices. Excitement and joy were evident on everyone's faces. Just then, the sky suddenly darkened. A massive spaceship descended abruptly. A group of beings with gray-green skin, large heads, and slender limbs, fitting the stereotypical image of aliens, slowly floated down from the spaceship. The aliens vibrated their vocal cords, producing strange tones. Earthlings are said to be simple and kind. "Surely, you will welcome us warmly." As they finished speaking, their gaze fell on the outskirts of the base, where hundreds of thousands of zombie corpses were piled haphazardly. The aliens said, "6." As the spaceship landed, the crowd became extremely agitated, swarming towards the base's entrance to see what was happening. A soldier in uniform nervously tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Sister, these newcomers seem hostile. Do you think you can handle them?" He gestured a throat-slitting motion with his hand across his neck. I shook my head. The spaceship, with its massive size, simply couldn't fit into the space, and these aliens, who didn't seem to be carbon-based life forms, wouldn't necessarily succumb to the tactics of dying from thirst, hunger, or old age if thrown into space. If we were to strike, it had to be lethal, otherwise, angering them could reveal unknown lethal weapons aboard their ship. Human faces were filled with fear. The aliens, quite satisfied, gave their commanding speech succinctly. "Earthlings, we are here to enslave you." I replied with a 6. My expression remained neutral as I secretly began manipulating space. The alien continued, "Earth boasts abundant resources, but your energy supplies have been depleted. Before we set out, we sent a gift to Earth, a core crystal, the main energy source of our planet. We've provided enough energy to sustain Earth for thousands of years, but in return, you must labor to supply us with Earth's resources." The crowd stirred. Was this meteor shower caused by these aliens? Humanity had suffered greatly, and Earth was in turmoil. We hadn't even sought explanations, and these arrogant aliens dared to make demands. The alien's inorganic voice coldly stated, "You must accept our enslavement and work for our benefit, otherwise." This ship is equipped with 50 particle cannons capable of annihilating any disobedient servant. People were furious but dared not speak. Of course, considering the fragility of carbon-based life, to prolong the lives of our slaves, you are entitled to 16 hours of rest each day and a day off after every 2 days of work. The crowd suddenly fell silent. This seemed better than labor laws. People exchanged Glances, feeling that perhaps it wasn't unacceptable, someone ingratiatingly said, "Esteemed alien lord, please come this way." The alien was very pleased and added, "As your masters, we will provide you with the essentials for survival, water and food, along with many high-protein, low-fat delicious foods. You earthlings are fortunate." The alien lord was surprisingly humane. Could it be the legendary nutritional supplements? People craned their necks to see as the spaceship's door opened, releasing countless black creatures. They moved at incredible speed, reaching us in the blink of an eye. To our horror, they were giant cockroaches, a meter long. The crowd screamed in terror and scattered. The alien was very pleased. Look how much they love this gift. Even the usually reserved earthlings are dancing with joy. Caught off guard by a cockroach to the face, I briefly lost control of the space, and then, after several days of continuous activity, a giant mushroom cloud suddenly exploded. Blinded by a bright flash and momentarily deafened, when the dust settled, only wreckage remained of the aliens and their spaceship. Dr. Barnes wiped his face and asked dazedly, "What just happened?" I stuttered, "The water in the compressed space. I accidentally released it." A fellow academician also said dazedly, "You've achieved controlled nuclear fusion. Rainey's ability is truly the pinnacle of this apocalyptic era." I looked at the smoke-filled ground. This ability was a bit mad.